We
gonna
do have a
take care of
podium
it.
with a mic.
Finally,
I
that's
was
a good
gonna
idea.
scream about that. I got nothing else to scream about, I don't think.
No talking about how you don't want to be here. We're all
I
smiles.
don't really wanna be
We're all
here.
smiles and helpfulness
I have
here.
not had a good week.
Oh,
Everything they told me was gonna work didn't work.
That's all right. That's just an opportunity to learn.
life in the pandemic.
Opportunity to learn and opportunity to get better.
Why would you put in a brand-new learning management system
Oh, no.
weeks before you open the campus
Harry, there are some things that I can't talk about.
above my pay grade?
I cannot say.
Above your pay grade, too.
Just reference the military shoot movement.
Yes.
It's not above my pay grade. I don't work there, so not above my pay grade.
I very seldom ever complain. I said, whoever made this decision. On this, well, we decided in February, then we closed the campus in March. I couldn't get on the thing until early August.
My clock says we got 10 seconds before start time.
All right. I'm trying to get Roger's email in here. Look at egg soup.
Our little
keeper, I
teeny
can't-
tiny flag. At least
Oh,
it's
there you are,
That's
there
right.
you are.
All right, you guys ready? All right. I'm gonna call this tax rate hearing to order. Oh, we don't need to say the Pledge of Allegiance just yet. Ed's got me thinking about the flag. I'm all ready.
There's some other initials for this, Ed.
Force
Like
of-
SNA and FUP and
Force of habit, here we go, okay.
All right.
First, we have on the agenda utilizing Amendment 2, increased tax rate to $2.75.
I have this on a slide that explains it perfectly, but I will try to explain it.
Make sure you're close to the microphone, whichever one you want to choose.
All right. It's okay. A few years ago, the legislature passed a law that political entities could not increase their revenue because it would cause more taxes to be charged that would bring in more money, and so therefore, the law was passed so that there could be no extra taxes to bring in more revenue to political entities. There was also, however, an amendment to that law that allowed school districts and such to pass what's called the Amendment 2, which will allow us to set our tax levy above $2.75. The reason our tax levy is so low is because we do have revenue from the pipeline. It brings in extra revenue to us, probably a little bit over $2 million. So when we then adopt our tax levy, it's necessary for us to go through Amendment 2 and adjust the levy so that it could be above 275. So I did write out the way in which we can adopt this Amendment 2. We can use Amendment 2 so that by the state constitution, we can raise the tax levy up to $2.75. After the $2.75, we can raise our tax levy up to what the state auditor says our ceiling is. A few years ago, our voters voted to raise the taxes, restore the taxes to the level where they were. And so therefore, we restored our tax levy to $3.12. Our ceiling this year is $3.23. So you could go anywhere from $3.12, you could set the tax rate anywhere from $3.12 up to $3.23. So I have the way in which we can, use Amendment 2 to go ahead and set the tax levy above what the law would otherwise recommend. So we will need to do that before we can adopt the regular tax levy.
You probably can dismantle that. If I couldn't find the cord that we used last week, I don't know what happened.
Brian's coming in just a second at the door.
No, there's Brian. Okay, so, what discussion do we have about this? Mr. Jakes, we're just at.
Tax hearing, it sounds like?
Wait, what'd you say?
Tax hearing, it sounds like?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. We're on item 2, utilize amendment 2 to increase tax rate to $2.75. Based on what Dr. Mayer is saying, we need to do that in order to then change the tax rate itself to approximate our, get within range of our ceiling.
Okay.
This is,
What are we at right now?
3.12.
Yes, we're at $3.12 now.
but increasing the school operating levy to 2.75.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We are at $2.63
okay.
Oh, that.
because we bring in all that extra revenue. And we have to remain revenue neutral. So our tax levy would have to be set at $2.63. This allows us to move it up.
Okay. Okay. So if we are at all interested in raising, so for item 3, then, this has repercussions for item number 3. So we're probably going to have to fold in some discussion of number 3 along with this one. So right now, Dr. Mayer had shared some of the information with us about what different tax rates would, so if we kept it at the lowest possible, which is what we have done, then that essentially means no change.
And I have the information, that Grace is going to put it on her screen and we can look at it.
Thank you, Grace.
Will it be visible to the folks at home?
It-
No, okay.
Get that screen behind me again.
Well,
See,
no,
you
you
told me
don't,
not to
It's-
complain.
Screen's
It's not
not
gonna be
down.
on there.
you don't have to.
I forgot, I lost the cable, Harry, so Keeper's bringing me another setup, so I don't know what happened between the last board meeting we were here. It got away from me.
I know my IT numbers by heart, all 3 of them at the school.
Yeah, well, he's on his way.
I don't see it, Grace.
Let's see, I'm gonna go.
Dr.
back.
Mayer, is this it?
Where are we
Yeah,
gonna
that's
put
it,
it?
Christie.
Yeah, where are we gonna put it?
Well, that's just it. We first have to agree that we want to change it. There we go.
So we gotta do this before we.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got it here.
Okay, all right. If you have my letter, do you have my letter then in front of you? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read what, I had just thrown out some options. You can set the tax levy at whatever you want. But the lowest should set it at is $3.12, which is what it is currently. The highest we can set it at is $3.23. And in the middle there is $3.18. So I just chose that because it was in the middle. The revenue generated then by the $3.12 would be $108,882 more than we had than the taxes brought in last year. The $3.18 rate would bring in $5,535,140, which is $213,319 more than was generated last year.
Dr. Mayer, did you say 5,535? Because I'm seeing 5 million.
$5,535,000.
I just misheard.
Sorry,
I'm with you.
I could have said, who knows what I could have said.
No.
And option 3 then is the $3.23, which would generate $5,626,174. That would be $304,353 over last year.
Okay, thank you. So.
Thank you, yes.
Here's where we have to have the tough conversation. I know we've talked, some of us have talked individually about, well, do we leave it in, as it is at 312? Do we raise it? Do we raise it all the way? Do we raise it in between? So I'd like to hear from you.
correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Mayor, if we raise this, doesn't the school only is set at a certain amount of money? So if we raise the taxes, the state's just gonna take a little bit more away to balance it out. Is that correct, what I'm thinking?
If you didn't use Amendment 2, they would, yes.
So
That's
we're-
one reason that we adopt Amendment 2, because that way we don't have to stay revenue neutral, we can increase.
And another question, sake of argument, $100,000 house, how much is that gonna cost that homeowner?
Jim and I talked about this.
$11.40 a year. That's a 6 cents. If you go to 12 cents deli, you get 22.80.
$22, okay.
So anywhere between 11 and 22 per household, roughly,
Yeah.
On
that's
a $100,000
6 cents
house.
for 12 cents.
for $100,000, based on $100,000
Right.
property ownership? Yeah, okay.
No, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
That's why I asked that question.
And considering, and how many, what was the amount of funding that we lost, Dr. Mayor, if you can remember off the top of your head, based on the the governor's rollbacks?
We lost 500,000 in June, then they took another 500,000 at the beginning of this year.
So we're already looking at being down about $1 million, right? Okay, so, now I'll yield.
And let me just also say, I should have thrown this in, every year we roll back the tax levy. Because we had said to the voters, we'll set the tax levy at $3.12. For the past few years, we've been able to increase it over the $3.12, but we've always rolled it back. So that we could say to the taxpayers, we're going to use your money like we have said we're going to use your money, and we're going to set the rate at $3.12.
So what we change it to now does not, it's not necessarily permanent. It's not
No,
necessarily
you
going to
do
be
this
free
every
forever.
year.
Bingo.
So,
Useful.
you're right, it's not necessarily permanent.
Right.
I think
I had
that,
one, I'm just saying, one
No, no,
thing
no.
I had asked you, Dr. Mayor, was how long had it been since we actually had an increase?
In the
And-
$3.12?
Yes. When I
Well,
looked back,
it's
it
been
looked
that
like it
since
had been,
I've been here.
I was gonna say, it looked like it had been,
2016, sorry, in 2016, it went to 312 from 275 the year before. That was the last.
2016, Jim?
Yeah.
We had it set at $2.75 because we did not use Amendment 2, and I don't even remember why.
Mhm.
But then, do you remember what it was before the 275?
Around 330. We had a tremendous rollback the year the pipeline came online.
Yes,
Right.
yes. The year the pipeline came online, we were set back at $2.75. The next year, we were able to adopt Amendment 2, which allowed us
I
to
just wanted to
set
say
it.
that historically, just because the taxes remain
Right.
pretty much steady for the last 5 years.
Right, they have
When
been.
everything else has increased. You know, inflation has hit every other avenue but the taxes levied to the district.
So just, so we were at 330 prior to the 275, correct?
That was my estimate, Christie. I'd have to look it up.
I didn't, okay, I just wanted to be sure that it was up higher, is what I'm looking at, to, especially so taxpayers are
Get
listening to
Amendment
this.
2 out of the way, and then we'll want to talk about the next one.
You think we
I think
can,
it's important that we keep in mind that the community has also added $100,000 to our bills. And so, when we're looking at our budget, it's $1,100,000. There's another 100,000 there, so
That's what, yeah, they added it.
they added it, I added it.
I was gonna say, I signed for that as well because I
I did
wanted
too.
the transparency and everyone to feel good about what was going on.
100%,
so-
but I think that as we look at our budget, we look at opportunity for
Right.
more revenue, I think that's, I mean, it
And then-
has to come from somewhere, I guess, is my feeling.
And it's minimalistic in sharing the wealth
Right,
somewhat,
Right.
at the cost, I guess.
right.
so I'm hearing that we probably want to go ahead and pass, we want to move to increase the school operating levy to $2.75 per Amendment 2 of the Missouri State Constitution. Am I right in hearing that? If so, I would need to hear a motion.
I think so.
And that does not set the tax rate.
No.
That just
Correct.
allows, that allows us to
That
move
allows us to
forward.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah, we're sitting
This is step
one before the other. Gotcha.
So, I need to read this?
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
what?
you have to read it.
Can I
So
just so
moved.
move?
So moved.
Do I have to read this whole thing
Since
again?
I just read it
As long as
out.
Linda has it.
I move to increase the school operating levy to 275 for Amendment 2 of the Missouri State Constitution.
Second.
Thank you, Brian.
Any further discussion?
Call question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can go back to discussion.
So yes, now back to discussion about setting the tax rate. Does anyone want to make an argument for one rate or the other?
Before we do that, there's some information I really want to share with you.
Okay.
Because we are receiving more money this year because our assessed valuation has gone up. And it has gone up quite a bit. So I really do need to share, and I apologize about not being able to project this because I want to give you this information. It's really important.
I'll take this moment of silence to say I too voice support for the audit that's coming forward and want to thank everybody who helped to organize it. And I'm glad that where my efforts failed, theirs succeeded. So kudos to them.
Disagreed on that, daughter.
I know, I speak only for myself.
Do you have anybody watching? I just wonder if the community can hear.
Yeah, well, I was just going to tell you.
Oh, I'm sure they can hear me.
Are you sure? I went to absolutely sure.
Well, while we're waiting on Dr. Mayor, speaking on the assessments, 278 households received reassessment this year, and this is not an assessed year. So that is I do believe next year is an assessed year. So probably 50% of those were probably estimated of people who built homes that are just now getting evaluated, but the other ones are not. It's, they're assessing properties that they believe are worth more than maybe, and that could go verse ways. Either way, they're reassessing some of those properties. So it could affect them in a positive or a negative way this year, but when they are reassessed and they're looking at everybody's houses, then it could affect them even more next year.
Okay, so something to keep in mind for next year.
Yes. I wish everybody could see it. Okay.
Okay.
Now, you can spin around in a minute so that everybody can see. This explains Amendment 2 that you just, that I tried to explain to you that you just passed.
Okay.
This then is our current valuation, how much our district is worth, actually. Last year, as you can see, the total was, the total valuation, $170,571,716. This year, the valuation is $174,060,995. That is broken down into real estate and into personal property. This year, our personal property is what raised more than anything. So our real estate valuation increased by $2,469,309. The personal property increased $1,019,907.
That's their numbers, not what we received.
What?
That's their numbers, not what we received. That's the evaluation.
That's the valuation that we are going to base our tax, that's
Can you need me
correct.
to hold that while you deal with this?
So the reason that I'm saying that we have such an increase is, on the next slide I'll show you. These are the revenues that I just read to you. There we go.
We're in open discussion, right? Do you have a number in your head?
Whichever way.
Do you have a number in your head?
Harry wants us to keep
So
moving
the
this conversation.
valuation of the real estate has increased and valuation of our personal property tax has increased. Last year, our personal property tax decreased because I called an accident, but usually that's because a business leaves town. This year, we must have businesses open because it went from a decrease to about $1 million increase. So I just wanted to show you that our valuation is about 3.5 million more than it was last year. So that information, I'm not gonna withhold that information because it does generate, of course, more taxes.
Okay.
So when we talk about balancing, then we need that information too.
But still, that's based on those three comparisons you had already given us, correct?
It's the 312, the 318.
Right.
yes.
I mean, that's already considering that valuation. So really, that's the number we need to look at, I suppose.
You have a number.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking to go middle of the road.
Yeah.
I think you know more about this, you work with it all the time. Me, I just pay it when the bill comes in the mail, so.
Okay, so yeah, let's open it up for discussion. Harry was just asking Christie her thoughts about where we might set it. And I don't want to put you.
Yeah, no, I thought staying in the middle of the road is probably a good thing, just because I know that things are being reassessed. Next year is probably gonna be more crucial for them to see where they're really at, after that situation takes place. But, I know taxpayers don't like to pay taxes, nobody does, but, honestly, our schools need it, and we also need to recoup some of the stuff that, they've signed for too.
Yeah.
Dr. Mayor, what are you hearing, if anything, from the government as far as the governor's concerned? I haven't heard much as far as what he's sending down for any cuts coming the January 1.
I haven't heard of any more cuts either. And what the school finance people at the state are trying to do is figure out sales tax, what they think sales tax is going to do. Because actually, sales tax at the end of last year, it wasn't too bad.
Right.
It kind of stays pretty good.
Because people were buying toward things is that's what they said, was the explanation. We'll see if the sales tax stays like that, or if it really will show a true decrease. The Classroom Trust Fund, which is financed by gaming money, has totally gone away. Whether it will come back again, who knows? So there are areas that it doesn't look too grim. There are areas that we just don't know. We don't know how it's going to turn out. So I have not heard from the governor that he's I would not think, not that I'm a political person, but this is an election.
I was gonna say it's an election.
So I would not think that there would be
After, he'll make those cuts after November.
until, well, in the first of the year,
Yeah.
yeah, yes. That's more likely than now.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, is if I have not heard one thing about
No.
projections for education for the new year. That's my concern, is if we'll take another hit.
You know,
I pray not. $1 million is a lot of money.
And for some reason or other, I don't know why, but I feel rather optimistic.
Okay.
Not optimistic that we're going to have a huge increase, but maybe not the huge
A little more
decrease that we
okay.
thought.
Good, that's good.
So,
I was gonna say, our numbers are 3.12, and was it 3.28?
1.8, and then,
3.18 is the one.
3.18?
and then the high end is
3.23, okay.
3.23 is the
Okay.
high one, and 3.18 is the middle number.
And approximately 4 years ago, it was at 330, so
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
it's still, all of
It'd
those
still
numbers
be
are still
under.
under.
Yes.
And even going in the middle road, you're 12 cents under.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I like the honest answer.
okay.
I like the idea of sticking in the middle,
I think-
Yeah.
because
I
we
think-
got hit, but
312.
so did the community.
I
So
think
did the
that makes
community.
sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not,
3.12?
you know,
Great.
so.
And so if we can have a little bit more stability at the cost of, I know I hate, yeah.
You know,
Nobody
but I
likes
think
raising
you
taxes.
brought up a good point, that this is a yearly thing.
Yes.
So next
Not
year,
permanent.
if things have not turned out as horribly as we thought,
Mhm.
then we can roll back again.
Yes.
And we can probably plan on that if things go.
Yeah. Would that the governor hadn't handed down some cuts to the budget so that we wouldn't be in a position where we have to
You'll do that in
even
December.
think
if it
about
gets-
this.
I do want to make a correction. So it wasn't 330, it was 312 prior to 4 years ago. So I just want to make that correction for the record, so everybody's aware of that.
It was 312 in 2016,
Yeah,
and then prior to that, it was,
and it went down because of the pipeline to
okay, thank you.
2.75.
Okay.
And then we voted, I do believe it was 2017, but Patrick thought it was 2019. So somewhere in there, about 3 or 4 years ago, then like 16, they
before
voted
me.
back up to 312.
Okay.
So that's where we sit.
Okay. So do I hear any,
My discussion is we need at least 3.2, is my opinion.
What's that?
3.12?
No, 3.20.
3.20.
Whew, there's a new one.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think if we're able to, I don't disagree.
I can be persuaded.
I just feel, I feel really strongly that if, I mean, I appreciate that we're in a time of need and a time of struggle. And I can appreciate that up to this point, the district hasn't maxed it out. The district hasn't been what you would consider greedy or unprofessional in this tax rate. And at this point, my opinion would be to get it to the 3.23, I'm just using that because the number's in front of me, that's just under 100,000 more than the 318. While I like the 318, we have $100,000 that we got extra that we've got to pay. So based on the community's want and need. So do we find ourselves comfortable in that number because of that, as well as other things? I don't know. I guess as a voter and someone that signed my name on that paper, I didn't know that we were gonna be hit with $1 million this year, and so it's gotta come from somewhere. You can't get water out of a turnip.
And,
So,
and our rates are compared to other districts in our area, comparable size and even smaller once you go to like Sustaining, Malta Bend or other places, their tax rates are higher by quite a bit. So I think this is a normative place for us to go at that point. So that's what I add to the discussion on that.
And I do want to say that not all voters actually signed the petition,
No,
so
I don't
we're speaking
disagree.
for,
I don't disagree.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
less than 1,000. So I just
I'm
want to make
not
sure that's
arguing
out there
that.
too.
No.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not arguing that. I just am
No, I
saying
just
as
wanted to
someone
make
that
sure.
signed it, that's what my opinion would be, my expectation maybe would be, where does it come from?
Well, I could say just the flip. I signed it, and I think we'd still be able to afford it. And my concern for the petition for the audit, but my concern is just that this year we lost $1 million. And we've got to make sure we've got supplies. We've got to make sure that we can, you know,
You convinced me, Brian.
yeah.
We don't know what it's gonna look like is the other thing.
That's a scary thought.
You know, I don't
I'd like
want
to make
to
a motion that we
withhold,
move to 3.2.
And I'll second.
Any further discussion?
yes,
sorry.
I don't want to withhold anything at all.
Okay.
So I want everyone to understand that when we get paid through the state funding formula, there, through the next year, and often through the next year, there can be reorganization, reconfigurations.
Sure.
Money up or down, paid back or taken away. But, so it's not necessarily set at what it will be.
I just voted to raise my taxes.
It phases in and out over the year. I just needed to say that.
Sure.
Okay, any further discussion?
Call question?
All those in favor of setting the tax rate at
I'll go.
3.20, $3.20?
And Ed was saying,
Well, that's a different motion, is what Brian moved was
I was gonna say,
$3.20.
all you have to do is vote against it and we can vote,
That's what we did
re-motion.
before.
So all those in favor of $3.20, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
All right,
that's 3. All those opposed?
Nay.
nay.
okay.
I heard 3.
It's 3-3.
Nay, nay,
It's
nay.
3-3.
I'm confused. I don't know what the heck you guys
Well,
are
he
doing.
threw a monkey
Yeah,
wrench at us.
Ed was suggesting a different thing than, other than what, the
I'm
current.
for the 3-2,
Okay,
if that's
then-
what we're doing.
If you
And
go
that's
aye,
what
it'll
we're-
pass
I'm sorry,
at 4-3.
I'm confused on what's happening.
motion
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
that we set the tax levy to 323.
Well, we just passed the 320.
Well, he can do that motion, and just, if we don't want it, we can just let it die for lack of a second.
Yeah.
Okay,
Unless
Uh,
somebody seconds it.
Yeah, is there a second on the floor for $3.23?
What were we on the last vote?
Well,
3-2?
No,
4-3
Ellen,
on the last vote.
4-3 is what we got to?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
so it's already passed, it's actually already.
Yeah, I was
done.
just checking. I heard you say it already
Yeah.
passed, but I was
Yeah.
just making sure we had the numbers correct.
Sorry,
Okay.
I was confused. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
Seeing no second, you can
disagree.
declare the motion dead.
I didn't know that we were gonna
yeah,
do
well,
that.
I've said, yeah, if we don't have another second, then we'll declare the motion dead. All right, so
I feel like I'm on a game show.
the motion has died for lack of a second.
Sorry, Ed.
Feel like
On
that
that
too
note, we need
sometimes.
to adjourn to regular board meeting. That is not an action item,
Mm-hmm.
just a
Happy
declaration.
problem.
And I want to welcome you all. I'm going to call you to order. Now we're going to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I know. Should have given you some warning. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We need to move to approve the minutes of the July 21st regular board meeting and the July 27th and August 18th special board meetings.
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Need to move to approve electronic communication of July 28th. I don't remember seeing this again. Was this in the board packet? Thank you. Okay. It was about the track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just where we were finding out that the track has been run over. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Was that a reply to conversation? Is that how that?
Yeah, we
I think that
texted
was,
everybody, so it's gotta be
Discussion?
sunshine law.
I thought there was just one reply.
well, it was just Alan saying, hey, we need to make sure we had
Right.
get this done right. Yeah, and Alan says, I'm replying all to make sure it's added to the minutes, that we, essentially that we do this right. Do you want me to read it all out?
No.
Okay. It was
Move, we accept.
it's pretty brief. Any seconds?
Second.
Any further discussion? I want to make sure that one's clear.
I didn't think that unless there's discussion on a reply all, then it was actually something to be added to the minutes, but I'm fine with this being added to the minutes.
Since it was a request.
It's an action.
Right, since it was a request to be added to the minutes,
Yeah,
Call
but
question.
not truly within the form of the sunshine.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That was, yeah, it was pretty informational. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving right through this. I need to move to approve the August bills totaling $629,004.
I would so move. I've already had my questions answered.
Any second? Any further discussion?
I just have, I did not have a chance to ask this question. I do have it marked. The masks that we bought from Hilliard, were those N95 masks?
Yes, I got those and for our nurses and custodial staff, so it would be really nice.
And so, okay, I'll email you then.
It wasn't from Hilliard, actually, the ones I got were from,
This is $7,500 for surgical masks from Hilliard Incorporated.
oh, no, I'm sorry, Ellen, I spoke out of my version.
That would have been,
Okay,
Sorry.
that's okay.
that would have been custodial and maintenance.
And
Yeah, I
Ellen's
thought
question
those
is,
were
are they
yours.
N95 masks?
What's that?
So I
Dr.
thought those
T,
were
do
yours,
you
the
know?
Hilliard mask, weren't those yours?
The Hilliard masks.
$7,500 expense last time.
Oh, yeah, that was, Troy picked those up from Hilliard for the district.
Mhm.
And were they,
To
We
get school
probably,
started.
that Hilliard's is the company we order all of our janitorial supplies from, et cetera. I would imagine they gave us a good deal, was probably
Yeah,
why
we-
Matt ordered them.
But are they N95 masks?
I don't believe so, no.
They're medical grade, but not
Medical grade.
N95.
So they're not sustainable for the COVID. I mean, we need to, the health department specifically states that we need N95 masks to be provided. So I wanted to ask that, because that's a lot of money for a mask that isn't protecting us from COVID.
That's not the, I don't know where I got information. I asked that.
Now
So-
that the president has made the essential statement, this is what I was asking about the other day, now there are new guidelines that we will follow or should follow based on the essential statement that we should get from Tara. And that will include the N95 mask, which we talked about a couple months ago.
Yeah,
That's where that will come
Right,
from.
right, but it hasn't, the CDC hasn't put out anything yet, the Tara has.
I think we can find that.
Sidebar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I just,
No, I'm trying to refocus.
okay, so, I want to make sure the question got answered.
Yeah, okay, I just think that's a lot of money for,
So being mindful of getting N95 masks going
I mean, we need to get
forward.
that direction from Tara, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so any further discussion of August bills? Then all those in favor, vote with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Approval of monthly finance reports. Everybody get a chance to get their questions answered about that? We're still so new in the financial year, it's not a lot of detail. Yeah, not a lot there. If nobody has any questions about it, then I'll just need a motion.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we're down to our first reading of the MSBA policy updates. You guys should have had those in separate emails from Linda, long documents.
Long document.
Mhm. And as Linda helpfully pointed out, they've got a few fill-in-the-blank spots. And so in adopting these, at least one of them did, but both of them did, didn't they?
As I said, it's the first
First
reading, not
reading,
an adoption.
that's right, sorry,
Yes.
I'm getting really excited about these policies. But anyway, so for, I wanted to open up the discussion about, thinking about the filling in of the blanks with the allotted days. So if you have a thought about wanting to change that, now, soon is the time to let us know. This is an action item. So I'm gonna give you guys a second to catch up through those documents. And make a motion whenever you're ready.
This is the first reading.
As I said,
Well, it says action item.
Well, first reading for action item. We usually have a consent agenda, we have it on.
Right. Mhm.
But we're not adopting.
No, I know, we're not gonna, yeah, so we're,
there's time to add to the blanks, I believe. Is that where you're going, Linda?
right, yes, next month we can add the
Right.
blanks, but, be thinking about it. If you have some discussion about it right now, please go forward. I mean, my discussion about it is I found the numbers to be reasonable. I would not see a reason to change them substantially. But if anybody else does, my heavens, please let us know. Okay, so we just need a motion then. How should we word this motion then, Linda?
It's just the first reading of the policy.
Accept
So we
the first
accept the
reading.
first
That we
reading,
accept,
that's the
yes.
verb I'm looking
Mhm.
for. So does anyone want to move?
I move we accept the first reading of the 2020A and ACA MSBA policy updates.
Nice second.
Any further discussion?
Call question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do look for those blanks as you're reading through them for the second time. Okay, now we need to adopt the regular agenda.
Do we have any agenda changes at the last minute?
No.
then? I move we accept the adoption of the regular agenda.
Second.
I was going to speak about the rec,
Oh, Brian.
which is not included on the agenda as well.
Brian, that is my error.
To what? What, I didn't notice that.
The Region 5 meeting that I attended last week
Yes.
on behalf of the district.
That is my error. Thank you, Brian. I did not bring that to Linda's attention. It was on, I have it in draft form
I
still.
amend my motion to include Brian Jakes.
I was gonna, and a
Region
good
5
place to put it, I think,
presentation.
is under F, underneath Harry's spiel.
These
Spiel on
Agreed.
board
Mine
report
won't be
at that
very
time.
long.
As item G.
I will be very quick.
And Brian, you have a specific way you wanted that worded.
I was just calling it Rec 5 meeting, or Region 5.
This is for the MSBA Region 5 meeting report. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you brought that to my attention.
We'll need.
I
this.
move that we accept the agenda with the addition.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. We're gonna move right.
Look at how fast we're going.
And we're still going through the details. It's nice, right? Okay, so we have reports up next. No public comments are
Public comments.
listed. So we do have reports, the first being from CTA. So we invite Mindy Coslet forward to our podium.
Did you move?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do the public?
Did I move it?
Yes.
We don't have.
All right, I can take my mask down? Okay, we'll do
Did you
that.
have,
Maybe
you
make
did
it
have-
better to hear me. I don't know.
He's not an official.
Okay.
The first thing I wanted to say is, I've heard from a lot of teachers, and me personally, I want to thank you for your proactive step last week, voting to move the start date. I know that I personally have benefited from that extra time, and I know lots of teachers that have, and ultimately our students are going to benefit from that. So thank you for taking that proactive step. We really, really appreciate it. So that was the first thing I wanted to be on record as saying. We really don't have, well, we got some stuff going on. Our membership drive's underway, that's going on. But the big thing I wanted to actually fill you in on is that last week, I reached out to central office and Dr. Mayer, and we had a conversation. And you know, there's just so much that we're all wondering about and we're all trying to figure out. And we had a discussion about what unknowns can we take off the table for the teachers so that they can focus on getting ready for students. Because you know, when you've got that buzzing, it's hard to focus on what you need to focus on because that's always in the back of your head. So with the intention of taking as many unknowns off the table as we can, we are going to hold a live town hall tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It's going to be on the same format, so teachers can pipe in from wherever they're working. And it'll be myself and my Vice President, Amy Carney, and then central office will be represented by Dr. Mayer and Dr. Lorenz and Ms. Durham and Ms. Gillespie. And Dr. Meyer is also going to join us, and we have gotten a ton of questions. Teachers are really excited. We have lots of repeat questions. There's definite themes that people are still wondering about. So I hope that tomorrow is a great opportunity to just get those answers out there, take those unknowns off the table, and we can just get to work getting ready for our kids. Because I, for one, am very excited to see their faces
Is this
next
going to be a
week.
Zoom meeting?
So,
Google.
yeah.
Google.
Yeah. So that's all I have,
So
unless
that's
you have
open
questions.
for the community as well? Is that
I believe
correct?
it's going to be live streamed, so they can
It is
tune in
live
and watch,
streamed.
right? Yeah.
Good. Okay,
Yep.
good.
So tune in and watch at 10, and if you can't, like everything else, it'll be saved. You can come and watch it on your own time. So that's it, unless you've got more questions. We good?
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Those
thank
of you
you.
on the panel, we are going to stream this from the central office.
Yeah, we will, because we can all space out enough at central office, and then just tune in wherever you're at.
Because I'm sure Keeper is looking forward to moving all the stuff once again.
Thank you,
I know.
Keeper.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, next
Thank
we
you, Mindy.
invite up Director of Data Analysis and Dissemination.
What I did, since you're not gonna be able to see my PowerPoint on the screen, is I shared it to each of you a couple of minutes ago. So if you want to open something and follow along with the presentation, you're certainly welcome to. I hope I can read it on my phone. I'll do my best. Okay. First of all, let me tell you, just in general, what my report is about is just revenue projections. First of all, it'll be kind of a history of what happened this year, you know, exactly how much money we lost, and foundation formula money, classroom for trust fund money, et cetera. But first of all, so the total annual budget for the state of Missouri is about $30 billion. But lawmakers and the governor only really influence about $10 billion of that, about a third of it. The rest of it is earmarked for very specific purposes. You know, the road tax, you know, the sales tax for roads goes to that. There's no discretion there. And of those $10 billion, about $3.5 billion are allocated to the foundation formula each year. Okay, let's see. And the major sources of general revenue are the state sales tax, which is 4.225%, and then individual and corporate income taxes. And in my written report, that's kind of the main focus, although I do go over some smaller sources of state revenue there. The sales tax, as Dr. Mayer mentioned earlier, for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2020, we were actually up quite a bit, about $39,000 was the increase in total state sales tax revenue for the general revenue year over year. Now, when you compare individual and corporate income tax revenue from one year to the next, the only fair way to do it is to do a 13-month period, starting in July of 19 and ending with July of 2020, but including July of 2020 because of the extension of the tax deadline. So in the slide under individual income tax for 13 months, the state was down almost $200 million. It was negative 193 million approximately in individual income tax. That's from one 13-month period to the next. Corporate income tax, sorry, let me zoom in here. That was actually up. $54 million up in corporate income tax. Beer tax, kind of an interesting fact. During March of 2020, beer tax was 125% more than it was in March of 19, as people prepared for the long shutdown. That's it. The excise tax on beer, in addition to the sales tax, is 6 cents a gallon. It raises about $7 million a year. And that I think in the written report I said it went from 41 million 12-ounce servings to 93 million 12-ounce servings for 1 month year over year. The total picture, the 13-month difference in general revenue was about $67 million for the state. So for fiscal year 2020 plus July versus fiscal year 2019 plus July, it decreased $67 million, which is it's a 0.658% decrease in general revenue. So I mean, that $67 million is a lot, but it's not like it is even 1% or 2% or anything like that. Okay, so now what effect does that have on Marshall? Well, first of all, let's talk about what effect it did have on Marshall. On the slide where it says Marshall's foundation formula payments, and I guess I could log in here if you want. That shows you the actual payments, okay? So from the payment transmittals, that's how much we got in state foundation formula revenue each year. And we actually had more income in fiscal year 2020 than we did in fiscal year 2019, but it explains that on the slide. That's because there was a prior year correction in the November payment, okay? If you take that correction out of fiscal year 20, put it back in fiscal year 19, which is when we should have received it, then you can see that we got about 9.4 million in fiscal year 2020 versus 9.7 million in fiscal year 18-19. So that's kind of that's just the foundation formula payment there, the difference. Okay, I'm going to the next slide and talking about the current fiscal year. We've received 2 foundation formula payments so far. July was $450,000. Which is a lot less than it's ever been in July, really. And it's because, okay, so DESE currently, okay, there was a $123 million restriction put on the budget by the governor, okay, $123 million, which is about 3.5%. So DESE captured that entire 3.5% reduction in the July payment, okay? So that's what we only got, the proration factor that they used was 0.545, so we got a little over 50% of what we would have gotten had there not been the budgetary restriction. But the idea is they kind of punched us, I guess, in the stomach here, and then maybe they won't have to hit us as hard later in the year. Our August payment was $892,000. The proration factor they used there was 0.775, so we got about 78% of what we would have gotten had there not been any restrictions. Okay, $892,000 is actually a pretty good payment, but okay, they made it very clear in their memo, don't expect it to be that low, for that proration factor to be that low. Okay, so eventually the proration factor they are predicting will be about 0.942. That's DESE's prediction, which would indicate another 2.3% reduction that they would have to capture from our payment and everybody else's payment. That proration factor, they haven't used a proration factor in many, many, many years. What they've done every other time is reduce the state adequacy target. Luckily, they gave a waiver on that law, and they didn't have to do that, because if they did, it'd hurt us. But any district that wasn't on formula, any hold harmless district, which is about half the districts, wouldn't have seen a decrease, okay, because they don't get paid on the formula. So be thankful that they're using proration factors instead of reducing the SAT. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I think, yeah, I'm on the next slide. It still says current fiscal year, and that's where it talks about the reduction. That's their estimate. Okay, now, if that estimate comes to pass, what's going to happen? Well, there's actually some good news. The structural, there are structural things in Marshall that are helping us very much. Okay, and there's a slide with a whole, with no heading, okay, that says like regular term ADA at the top. If you look at the third line, okay, ADA, notice that it went from 2336, or sorry, 2336 up to 2348, okay? So that's an increase of 12. However, look at the line above that and see how summer school decreased by 50. Okay, so even though we had a much smaller summer school, okay, and that was in last summer, not this current summer. We had a much smaller summer school. We still increased in ADA. And there's a whole bunch there that I'd love to explain. Like here, okay, look at where it says FRL count, and I'm going to explain the weighted ADA just a little bit. Okay, this is tough. If you take, okay, sorry. FRL count. Okay, so for 1920, see how it says 1532 there? Okay, 1532. Now, go down 2 lines to line 6. It says minus the total ADA times the threshold percentage. So what that number is, that 738, that is the ADA from line 3 times 0.3142. Okay? So that gives you 738. Now, if we actually had 738 free and reduced lunch students, we wouldn't get any adjustment in our ADA. Okay? But anything above that is going to weight our ADA and give us more state money. So if you look at that, our FRL weighted calculation in line 8, we actually went up by about, what is that, 21 students. Now, look down at the IEP. Without explaining, it uses kind of a different threshold percentage, but if you look, it went from 9 up to 31, and then the LEP, the limited English proficiency, went up about 5. The overall story can be told at the very bottom. Okay, the weighted ADA, 2597 for 1819, 2707 for 1920. We're going to get paid on about 100 extra students this year. Okay, 2710 is the number they've been paying us on in July, and then I think it was 2713 for the August payment. So if like under normal economic circumstances, if there was no proration factor, that'd be about $600,000 in additional foundation formula money. But there is economic uncertainty. But just understand that if things turn around, the increase in students here is going to generate more state revenue. The other thing that's helping us, let's see, I think we got to go to the next slide here. Okay, so what that would mean for Marshall. I did a screenshot here of how they calculate the foundation formula payment. Now, Desi was very clear that we should not look at any 1-month payment and try to use that to project the total annual payment. What you have to do is look at the calculated annual payment here. And it would be, if you look at the, let's see, line 9 there, where it says $11,395,000, that's how much the state formula would generate, but you've got to subtract away the classroom trust fund money down at the bottom in line A. So that's, you have to subtract away currently $768,000 from that. Now, what they did here, and you can see it, under line 17, the basic formula payment would be $11,395,000 minus the classroom trust fund money. But if you look at right below line 17, it says they took the total formula payment times the proration factor, 0.774. Then they subtract the classroom trust fund money. Okay, so that's kind of how we're getting paid right now. But understand that as soon as that proration factor gets closer to normal, we should see more revenue. Now, there's also something, I forgot to mention it. The dollar value modifier, line 4, went from 1.004 to 1.007. That's about a $50,000 increase just right away, okay, in the state formula payment. Let's see. All right, so here's what to do. And I also looked at the general revenue reports for each month. And you can, I mean, all of this is, you can get it on the website, but any annual decrease in general revenue okay, of $20 million results in a 0.71% reduction in the available foundation formula money. So if you are following the general revenue reports, any reduction of 25 million would result, you will get $80,000 less dollars, okay? Now, I would suggest that if you're going to do that, that you look at the July report very carefully, because you can't look at the income tax revenue from July of this year and use that to project. I will tell you what I'm worried about, and that's the income tax next spring. I don't know if I'm thinking about this correctly or not, but nobody was unemployed in 2019. Well, some people were, but the unemployment rate was 3.5% in Missouri. So, the income taxes we collected this spring were from income earned before the pandemic. Okay, so if there's going to be a hit in the income tax, it's going to come this next spring. And that's what, now, DESE still makes the prediction that the final proration factor is going to be 0.942. But nobody knows what that income tax is going to look like from all the unemployment that went on and is probably still going on. Let's see. So Proposition C revenue, listen, Proposition C revenue should move in lockstep with the general revenue sales tax, because Prop C is just another sales tax. And that's been good, okay? That's been good. If you look at that, we received more in 2020 fiscal year than we did in 2019 fiscal year. And so far this fiscal year, with 2 payments, we're up $18,000. And then if you look at the classroom trust fund money, if you look at that, that did go to 0 for 1 month when the gambling was pretty much shut down. But we've gotten substantial payments in July and August from the classroom trust fund. We're down $18,000, so between Prop C and the classroom trust fund, it's pretty much a wash so far this fiscal year. Hold on a second. Did I miss a slide?
Not that I saw, sir.
Sorry. Oh, wait, yeah, I didn't talk about the most important part, though. It's 2 slides up, where it says the dollar value modifier is $50,000. But then, okay, that line 3 there tells you the bottom line. This is what DESE would predict, okay? That our foundation formula revenue for this year would be right at $10 million, okay? Now, if you remember, last year, we should have got 9.4, no, yeah, we should have got 9.4. We got 9.7 because of the correction. Either way, $10 million is more than, even with the predicted proration factor, if that holds up, we should, be okay this year, state revenue-wise. And of course, local revenue, you guys talked about that earlier. That's going to increase now, too. Questions?
Yeah, that's the bottom line, $10 million is the number you got to.
If DESE's predicted final...
As long as they don't change those formulas you rattled off with.
The only thing that matters is the proration factor.
Okay.
The structures are in place for us our revenue to increase quite a bit. So the only thing we have to worry about is the proration factor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I would just like to comment that Jim does a better job than I do showing all the different things that could go right or wrong. But I just want the board and the public to know there are so many factors. And what he is saying is absolutely correct. It could very well be not as bad as we think. However, as long as I've been a superintendent, that's over 20 years, I have never seen anywhere close to a proration factor being at 0.77. It's never been under a 0.83 that in the last 20 years that I know of. So he's exactly right. Everything depends on that proration factor. And if DESE's correct and it comes back up to 0.94, that will be tremendous. And it's an unknown right now.
Thank you. Next, we'll recognize Director of Special Services, Grace Durham.
Hello, everyone. Since I spoke out of turn earlier about N95 masks, I'll kind of talk about that. And I'm sorry, I just got so excited because we found some for our people. So I wanted to make sure that our nursing team was supported because they are going to be in those isolation rooms along with other people in their building. So we were able to find some N95 masks locally, and we got those in. I believe I got 105 of them in, and they are going to be used for our nursing staff or anyone else who is manning those isolation rooms along with the custodial staff who may have to come behind them and sanitize those rooms for the next student that may use it. That isn't on my report. That's a new thing since I turned in my report. I won't read it to you. It's pretty brief this month because a lot of it is just housekeeping things. Budgets have been submitted, budgets have been approved. Final expenditure reports, that's what the FER is. Those are any federal funds that I spend in any of the title programs, in special education. Both of those have been submitted and approved. Are there any specific questions or concerns?
You know, you had a lot of just basic paperwork coming to us this time. It's a busy time of, it's the other side of a busy time of year for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be back later with lots of other things. So
With
I
the
try to keep
changes
this
in the
brief.
process coordinator positions and such that we had to reassign, does that affect you at all?
Changes in the process coordinator position.
Was the Title IX that we had to change something? What was
Oh.
the title?
That was the director of, yeah, compliance director.
Right.
Yes, and we have had, Terry Lorenz and I have been co-directors.
Right.
So now there has to be a
A split.
director and a decision maker.
Right.
So Terry is the coordinator, the director, and I'm the decision maker.
Okay. I didn't know if you were involved in that, sorry.
No.
Most of your programs are,
Right,
different
title,
types,
yeah,
yes.
absolutely, so thank you.
I'm pretty sure there was a pay increase involved with that title.
Okay, thank you.
Or a pay decrease.
Next, we'll recognize Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Diane Gillespie.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to keep it brief. You've received my report. If there are any specific questions about my report, I'd be glad to answer those. Really, the only update I want to give you is currently, as of about 2 o'clock this afternoon, we have 493 distant learners that have chosen to not come back to in-seat learning, and 6 of those students will be using the MOCAP option through DESE. 5 of the students are, I had in my report originally 5, but we had a senior who has re-enrolled. They were a MOCAP student last year. They have re-enrolled, so that is up to 6 since that report. We will be using Launch, MOVA, and Missouri Connections, which is a new vendor out of Springfield. Other than that, if there are any specific questions about my report, I'd be glad to answer them.
how do you feel the additional PDs going from the curriculum standpoint?
I feel the teachers have been very appreciative, as Mrs. Coslett and I'm sure Mrs. Carney and the principals that are in the room would also agree. They're appreciating the time for planning and working through how to provide distance learning for those who have chosen that option. We have had 3 sessions on how to engage students in distance learning. The instructional coaches and myself have done those trainings through Google Hangouts. We have 2 more to do tomorrow. And the feedback we're getting is it's been very, very positive. We've been actually presenting through Google Classroom, providing them with opportunities to use new platforms, Flipgrid, Jamboard, lots of things that are out there within the Google suite. But we're providing our content isn't like science content or anything like that. Obviously, it is truly on how to remember to engage students in the distance learning program. So some of our principals have sat in on it. The 2 teachers who are here have not, oh, no, Mindy did sit in at middle school was yesterday, so we have had very good feedback on that so far. So that is the only PD they're receiving this week.
Okay. Thank you.
Pausing for more questions. Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we'll hear from Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Terry Lorenz.
Well, first of all, apologies for the technology. I've just been swamped. I didn't get over. Usually I get over during the day and check out that wiring, so that was all on me. This has been the busiest 30 or 45-day period I believe I've had in my professional career. Progress has happened at a record pace there at MPS, and I'm happy about that. It's just hard to keep up with everything. The high school will be talking about the sod a little bit later. Chief Day informed me that they are about to get the emergency siren going out on the ball field, so I think they got some grant money or something to cover that, so they're going to finish that, complete that project. Spainhauer is moving on at a breakneck speed. We're expecting to start waxing floors tomorrow down the hallway, so outside work you can see getting done. Inside work's happening. They're laying the tile down the hallway this evening, so they'll be working tonight. When they leave tonight, we'll be in there. They're gonna hang doors right ahead of the waxers, but we've got 2 crews of waxers ready to go, so I hope to, and if I have to run somebody waxing over the weekend, I plan on being ready to move kindergarten teachers into the rooms the first part of next week. So that's where we're at on that. A couple quick things, BMS, we did an electrical upgrade in the kitchen to a breaker box. They also finished the install on a mini split upstairs. We had some heat problems on some overheating on a server closet. Daikin finally got both stages of our chiller working at Beaker, so I'm very happy about that. That's the first time in a long time we've had both stages. We had to install a couple $1,000 more worth of parts, but he guaranteed it would go, and then it did, so that's a real relief. At Northwest, they finished remodeling bathrooms, finished the electrical wiring, and got the print shop up and running. Southeast, some general maintenance, playground maintenance. We're going to talk about the IA heat exchanger a little bit later. Culinary arts, had an electrical upgrade there with a panel. The tech, our internet service provider is Bluebird now. It's complete. We had Morenet before. We doubled our bandwidth in this new deal with Bluebird. We doubled a reminder just that we doubled our bandwidth to 500 meg. We should be experiencing about just under $12,500 savings a year going through Bluebird. So that's a plus. The migration to Securely, the filtering solution is up and going. They are working on configuring and deploying 250 Chromebooks that we ordered this past spring for the high school, middle school, and Northwest. I applied for through HP, they had a K-12 education connectivity bundle. I applied for it a while back, thought it was dead in the water. They got back a hold of me, brought us back around. So we picked up about 11,200. It's a couple of pretty big Wi-Fi devices that we're going to put on it's really made for and we're pretty beeped up in our parking lots anyway with our Wi-Fi signal, but this will increase that bandwidth signal into some of our bigger parking lots and 2 of our bigger parking lots. So that was a nice little happening. The Ricoh copiers are in and configured, set up and moving. People are starting to get ready and used to them. The hotspots came in today. I just found out we haven't got them. We haven't talked about how we're going to evenly distribute them, but they did come in this afternoon. So that was something.
How many of those? Just curious.
220 hotspots. And then we will talk about E-rate a little bit more when we approve that Category 1 fiber. I'd just like to say that I've been working on E-rate grants from the beginning of E-rate back in '96, when I used to have to write them in pen and mail them, drive them down to the post office. And I've been trying in all the districts I've been to capture one of these Category 1 connectivity grants. This is the first time I've been able to do it. I'm very happy for the students of several generations to come of Marshall students, because they're going to be able to benefit for a long time. That's a really nice project. So I'm looking forward to you approving that a little bit later. I have I loaded it on our website. If you go to our building projects, I'm not going to try it here in case it doesn't want to run. I don't want to mess up Dr. Mayor's. But there's a video.
You can show yours after I get through if you want.
Yeah, I might do that. There's a video, just shows a quick aerial shot of the progress when they were pouring the other day. And it's going to be on the website too, so Troy told me he just got it downloaded. We're letting YouTube host it instead of us hosting it on our website, so. I think, one last thing. I spoke with Kirk Ahrens. He caught me, I don't know, the end of last week, maybe Friday. And he sent me a little note over, and he said, feel free to, Councilman Kirk Ahrens said, feel free to use my name. I'll just read it to you. I've seen, let me get it up here where I can see it. I've seen from a couple of your school board meetings that there have been questions on getting an update from the city for the Hab Center project. I just wanted to let you know that we have all but secured funding for the project, and RFQs have already been sent out to a number of companies. While the contract reads the city only needs to tear down one building before December 11th of 2021, our goal is to tear down all buildings at once before the December 21 date, which would be 2 years ahead of schedule. I hope this information helps the school board in their planning for future schools. If you or the board have any questions, please let me know. Regards, Kirk Ahrens. So I just want to pass that on to you. I believe there's probably, I think that's it. I'm gonna stop.
Any questions for Dr. Lorenz?
Mr. Lorenz,
Yes.
would you mind emailing a copy of that to us? The
Kurt?
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
will.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. Lorenz, I wanted to know about the thermal cameras. Did you give us an update on that? I might have been
Oh,
trying to look at your
I'm not
report
sure.
and bouncing back and forth.
They were on our,
They're on the,
yeah. They were purchased, they were on our approval,
well,
right?
They are.
Are you looking at installation?
they're installing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're out there now.
Yeah, well, okay, that's what I wanted to know. Are they all
Yeah,
fully installed?
I'm not sure exactly. I haven't had a chance to talk to, I saw one of them still sitting over in Keeper's office a day or two ago, so I know they're not all, well, he may be waiting on the one at Spainhour. So I'm not exactly sure where they are on the Beaker in the high school. Was it up, the panda-looking
Yeah,
bear?
right inside the door there. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I knew they were,
I
it was
didn't
on
even
their,
notice them.
Yeah.
it was on their to-do. Their to-dos is bigger than, as big as my to-do.
Sure,
But yeah,
yeah.
Spainhour is probably the only one I saw then, because they won't put it up until that doorway's, because it'll go in that front main entranceway.
But they'll be up and operational by the time school starts, especially since we.
Yeah. So what, so out there real quick, before we move away from that, while you said that about up and operational, we plan to be in the rooms, They may have to put a barrier up for the office area if they're still working on that, but that won't stop us from traveling to and from both buildings and taking advantage of the classroom space, so that's where, yes.
Do you have any inspections like that you
Yes.
have to go through before you?
Thursday,
those?
what's today, Tuesday?
Yes.
Thursday morning, Mr. Morgan's gonna be doing the ceiling inspection. He gave us preliminary approval, that's why we knew we were on the right path. He had a couple things for us to tweak and change. All the exterior panels are up in the grid, we have to leave the middle of the room open for him to look at it. Thursday morning, he's gonna give us a final go. The only thing that he said, and the reason why we pulled off the parking lot, the only thing that he said that would stop us from getting in out there is the sidewalks around the building for emergency exit. And so the pavement guys grudgingly got off the pavement, and they're pouring in the morning, they're gonna pour probably 2/3 of that sidewalk in tomorrow morning with a pump truck, so they'll have it. It's coming together really fast
The
on the
heating,
front.
or the fire inspections and those things, are those completed? or
both
they
of them
will be
were-
completed?
They're both happening, that Chief Day and Mr. Morgan both came the same day, last Thursday with Dell, and they both did preliminary walkthroughs. They both were in a good place. They said we were in a good place. There wasn't anything they saw that would stop us from final inspection. I know Mr. Morgan's gonna do final ceiling inspection Thursday. I think Chief Day's gonna do it,
Now, does
maybe.
he do you have to have a state inspection also?
We,
From
everything,
state fire?
everything, well, everything from the sprinkler to the, it's all
That's what I
tested.
mean.
It all has to be approved and
So that has to
tested.
come through a state inspector, though, is what I'm asking.
I'm not gonna say for sure on that, because I think our fire marshal can approve that.
Okay, because they don't, that's what I wondered, if you
Yeah.
guys had to
They-
go under a
we
state,
have
they
to
have to
provi-
go under a state.
We have to provide them things like, with the sprinkler system, the air test sample.
Yeah,
of
every
the-
year.
Everything has to be,
Yeah.
we have to show them, but I'm not so sure that Chief Day can't approve that. But I know Dell knows that, I just don't know it right now, who makes the final. But they both told us, both, because those are the two main inspections you have to get through, and they said that we were on pace to have this thing
I
ready
think
to
I would
go.
just double check that you don't have to have the state fire marshal approve
Yeah,
of.
yeah, we
Are
will.
you in this, are you in city limits?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Just to be
You
sure,
bet.
you don't want to hiccup and then not be able to get here if we're on a, Renee wants to move her kiddos in there and be ready 14th, and we're still waiting on an inspection. I just be certain.
I can't say that I'll have the playground completely ready by the time school starts, they'll just have to play out in the ball field. But it's coming.
I had one more question.
Yes.
About maybe I missed the detail, about the grant for the external internet access. So that was the 11,000.
Yes,
So what does that mean
So-
for our capabilities?
it just adds to us. It's Aruba, it is Aruba equipment, which is what we use. It is actually gave us 2 packs because of our school size, 2 of the bigger packs. It is an extended range outdoor Wi-Fi solution for larger sites beyond 100 meters, beyond 300 feet. So these devices are allowing beyond 300 feet capability. We probably, just in our signal strength, are probably getting 100 to 150 feet around our perimeters. But this is gonna boost us at 2 of our bigger sites, so.
And that's what I was getting at, two of
Yes.
the bigger sites.
It will boost us. These bundles are designed for rapid provisioning and deployment of outdoor Wi-Fi access in areas in support of students who may not have internet access at home, so. That's,
And which were the 2 sites?
well, we're doing definitely at the high school, probably gonna be Beaker. It's kind of a parking lot thing, so it may end up being Spainhour. It's one of those things where if people wanted to pull up, we're trying to figure out what's the second best. This is certainly the best, because when we pop this out here, it's gonna light up the whole backside for anybody driving by. The issue with Beaker is there's not that much parking space right around the building, so it may end up being, once we get all the new parking lot out at Spainhour, it may be a better solution to.
Although kids don't drive at Beaker either.
True. So, that's up in the air. I was just happy to get the bundle, because I tried and tried, and they didn't want to answer me, and then all of a sudden they said yes, so.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you. Any other questions?
Your E-rate report will actually be part of the board report as well.
Yeah, I'll talk about it a little
Did you
bit
send
more
it?
extensively
Okay.
when we get to that section.
I just wanted to say
on
that there's a tremendous
hear your
amount of
question,
savings that have came to the district over the E-rate expenses that have been spent over the course of the year. He had a really good breakdown on that, so I just want to make sure that went out with part of the packet, or we talked about it. So,
Yeah, I thought I'd share a little bit more of that whenever you approve that.
I know other districts doing it, in fact, I know Warrenburg doing this, they're putting the hotspots on their buses.
Right.
Are we doing that same?
We've talked about it. It's not that we couldn't or we won't,
But we have the capability to do that?
Yes.
So I'm asking.
yes.
we had also talked about purchasing with our new buses Wi-Fi capability.
Correct.
As well.
When we go into the next round, we're going to show you solutions that would have built-in hotspots on the buses that we're looking at. If the only way that wouldn't happen is if we, because Craig and I had talked about getting a year-old buses, and some of those don't have, we would save quite a bit of money on the one-year-old bus, but those wouldn't have Wi-Fi hotspots to access, so. But definitely the one that we do for student sporting events, activities, we definitely want to light that one up with as much hotspot as we can get on, so.
All right, thank you.
Good.
So now let's move on to the superintendent report, Dr. Carol Mayer.
I'm going to see if this will, it will. To give you some, just some information, aside from the tax rate hearing, I do have a comparison here of 5 years of the different components of setting the tax rate and of the district finance. And as you can see then, this year, we have down at the bottom, we do have a gain of $2.8 million over last year. We had a couple of really thin years in 17 and 18, but we have bounced back. We're not quite back to the one in 2019, but we are much better off than we were this time last year, so far as the valuation of our property, of our district. I wanted to talk a little bit about the conference guidelines for activities and sporting events. It seems to be a subject that a lot of people are interested in and a lot of people have questions about. So I wanted to talk a little bit about those, and Kristen can help me if I need it or if I say something that is wrong, because a lot of the plans that I'm going to talk to you about were made from the AD's point of view. And the ADs and the superintendents worked together a lot. Some of the rules and regulations came from the ideas of the ADs. Most of them did come from the superintendents either approving those ideas or bringing their own to the table. So we've been working we've had a weekly meeting for about the last 3 or 4 months. So here are of course, these are the schools that belong to our conference, and Marshall's the best, so therefore it's in the middle, it's the biggest one. There will be live streaming the games whenever possible, and we are very lucky that KMMO live streams our games for us, and they are going to continue to do that even though we're at Valley. They have permission from the administration there to represent the media and to have a live stream for the people who are not able to go.
That will be audio only, right?
No, it's video.
Audio and video?
Yeah, yeah. There will be changes this year because there's such limitations on spectators and the crowds that can come to the games and the events. In our conference, fans need to sit together with their families for social distancing purposes. They would really like for children to stay with their parents and stay in their family unit when they're sitting together. It will depend on where we're going as to how many people can come with each participant. So I will try to keep you informed of that. It's going to be on our website. Kristen will be sending out messages as to what activities you can expect.
This is just conference, school games, and home events that this applies to.
Right. Yeah, I have that a little bit later. And so, yeah, but it is just, and that's a good thing to just say now. This is just for our conference. I would like for our people to sit together just because of crowd control anyway. And things are going to be different because we're playing at Valley this year. In our conference, fans are expected to wear face coverings while in attendance. We would like for you to sit together with your family. We would like for you to social distance. The superintendents and the ADs agreed that we would like for our fans to wear face coverings. There won't be any leaving and re-entering into the events for our conference games. It's just too difficult to keep track of who is in and who is out. Each Monday, the superintendents are going to determine the level or the color of the week. It will be in effect for each performance from Tuesday to Monday, unless there is unless there's an emergency. We always have to say that in instances such as this. And I will send you this presentation if you'd like.
Yes.
This year, we are playing our home games at Valley. They were very, very gracious to offer us their facilities, and so we will be playing our home football games at Valley. The campus is closed to visitors, so I offered to the Valley administration, because I knew that they were struggling with us bringing fans in, so I did offer to limit our crowd to 2 spectators per participant. We have players and cheerleaders and band, and there will be lots of people, even if we limit it to 2 people. And that's a lot over what Valley is expecting their people to do. So,
Yeah, they're not letting anybody outside, so I'd say
No.
this is way above and beyond.
It is. It's very, very generous of them, and I really want to hold to this so that we can show them how much we respect that they're letting us do this.
So they have approved that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they
They
have.
have approved it, and this is for week 1, and we're gonna see how it goes, and if they feel comfortable, they're going to be a little bit more lenient, is what we were told.
That's good.
Like for students, because right now, we don't have any students at football unless they have a ticket from a participant.
Can
Okay.
they stand on the public sidewalk?
And I talked to Dr. Humphreys about this, and so if we make any changes, I'll talk to her again to make sure that I'm getting the same message across the board. But she was very gracious to let us bring any people at all.
And we deeply appreciate that.
Yes, very much. We have talked about how to handle non-conference games, what the level should be set, the number of spectators. That's going to be probably on a game-to-game basis. We are playing in Chillicothe this coming Friday night, and here's what Chillicothe has asked. 2 parents, siblings, and grandparents may attend. they will be required to show ID at the gate. So I don't know exactly, Kristen, how that will work.
I've had all my coaches fill out a spreadsheet with their parents listed, siblings, grandparents. I kind of went from what Chillicothe was offering because that's a lot compared to what I've heard. And so every sport filled that out, and I just send that information to the school, and then they have it as a pass list.
Very good.
So immediately after I did send out this information to the district, I got the question, but my son has 2 sets of parents. So will there be 4 parents allowed rather than 2? And that's up to Chillicothe, I guess, so,
Well,
that's
if they're on
something
the
we'll have to
spreadsheet
ask.
though, right, then they'll be on their pass list.
Well, but it says they said 2 parents. So,
I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to fight that battle.
I wouldn't either.
no, no,
That's why I'm
Chillicothe's
doing
gonna fight it.
tickets. I did not want names,
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah, that's tough.
So what happens if a parent isn't on the pass list
and they get up there.
and they go, I mean,
They're
I don't
probably
know,
gonna
I
be
would
denied
guess that
entry.
they'll say, you can't come in, I don't.
Go park in the parking
They'll
lot.
probably
and
deny
watch.
them entry
Now,
and
I did
hopefully they leave
have
peacefully.
we've had our parent meetings this week, and I've gone to football, volleyball, and soccer so far, and explained all of this to them, so they knew the spectator rule, told them where they can find it on the website, per game, and all that kind of stuff. So they know where to get it, told them, sign up for owl alerts, that's my best way to communicate with them, so I'm putting that out there as much as I can.
So we would just ask our parents, our participants' families to understand the situation that we're in, to respect the other district's requests so that our students can get the most out of this experience. I think, I'm just speaking for myself here, but I think that that's our hope.
Right,
And that's,
right.
I got a phone call from a parent today, and I tried to explain that, and they were very understanding.
That's great. It's a tough situation for
Yeah.
everybody.
It is tough.
yeah, I
Very
think.
Another thing, just being at the parents' meetings that was said and brought up was that not everybody's gonna travel or go to every game. So there is the ability to loan passes out or to do things like that. So, you know, as students are talking amongst themselves about who's gonna come, who's not gonna come, they can loan out their passes to other parents. So,
Yeah, I can see it being hard on the student body. I mean, the student
Yeah.
body that are active, that support their peers. This is gonna be a tough,
yeah.
this is gonna be a tough road
There
to
won't be a
hoe.
bird cage at the game.
I
just
thought
different
about the bird
things.
cage.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough.
it is.
Just preparing them for
It's a
It is.
lot that's been taken away from the kids.
Yeah, yeah. In the concession stands, we are asking, and the school doesn't run the concession stand. However, we are asking that there's no cooking done in the concession stand. Now, our concession stand at our home games, I guess, will be at Valley. I don't know anything about that.
Valley has approved us to, the booster club to set up a tent outside the concession
Oh, okay,
stand. They
good.
don't want us to use their area because we have to disinfect everything after
Yeah.
the game.
We had a long talk about concession stands, and we're asking that no hamburgers, hot dogs, or nachos be sold. Anything that has to be cooked.
They're working on that.
When you're saying
Good.
disinfect everything, are you talking about seats in stadium, or are you just
Yeah.
talking about?
Stadium, benches, handrails,
Okay,
high-touched areas,
Gotcha.
press boxes, because Valley has, I think, 3 home games the day after our game.
right.
So they're gonna disinfect before we get there, after practice, and then we're responsible afterwards.
Gotcha. Just wanted to make sure I understood that. So
So,
who is gonna do that? Is that a
Yeah.
crew that we're gonna have, or is that parent volunteers, or?
I brought it up to Dr. T yesterday, and we were gonna talk about it Thursday.
And he brought it up to me today.
There you go.
All right, sounds like we'll
And
have more
I am-
information to come.
Because our wrestling club cleans the stadium, the stadium after home games. So I'm going to call Dr. Humphreys and ask her how she would like to handle that, and that we do have a student group that has done that in the past. But of course, it will be up to Dr. Humphreys to tell me what she wants to do.
They have home spurs probably that you're gonna need to do
I was
that
gonna
with.
say.
Do what?
So they have the proper equipment. to do
We
that
would
with.
take them from here because they're not gonna be in use Friday night.
But I doubt they disinfected this stadium, they never have.
Right,
No, I'm
they just
saying
clean
they
trash.
would-
Now, with this
They're
COVID,
probably gonna take the guns that they use here, out there,
At
is
the
what we had
school,
talked
ones
about.
they're
That's
using
what
now.
we are using to disinfect the dugout Saturday at the softball tournament and the bleachers.
they have enough equipment to do it, correct.
so I'm just piggybacking off Brian, just because because I want to be clear. So if someone, let's say Clinton has tickets that they're using to get into our game, if they give their tickets to someone from Marshall, since they're not coming, then those people can go to the game since they have a ticket. Is that correct?
Yeah. Basically, at a volleyball game, there's going to be 60 people per team. So you're gonna have 120 fans. There's 120 tickets out there. I know who was assigned each ticket at our place. We haven't sent tickets yet to away games. They're gonna be different.
And the reason I'm asking that is if, let's say we are limiting it to 60 per team, and let's say some team only brings 10. Now we have 50 spots that 50 of our people could be attending. So if they're lined up in a line outside, and then we enable 50 more, I'm just asking, because we've got 50, we've said that we can have 60 on both sides, and they don't show up, then do we get to bring more people in? I don't know, I'm just asking that.
I am not the AD or the superintendent,
Neither.
but I
I'm
think
just-
that would be a very
I'm just
tough
being
thing to
devil's
say,
advocate
first
because that
come,
might
first serve,
happen.
or something along those lines.
I wouldn't wanna work security that
Get
way.
students into all the games except for football games.
What was that, Kristen? I just didn't hear.
We're working on a plan for students to come to all the events except Valley since our hands are tied with spectators.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a good word.
I'll think about it.
I don't know, I just was,
I didn't, honestly, I didn't think about it. Because like for the softball tournament, what I did is I made tickets for every school, looked at their roster, counted their kids, counted their coaches, sent them the tickets, numbered them, so I knew exactly how many that school was getting. And they don't look like ours, but they know exactly what it's supposed to mean, they have what they need.
and the reason I ask is, let's say it's senior night for a kiddo.
That's the thing.
Senior night is the first week.
I'm giving seniors on senior night because we're doing senior nights the first home game of the season to make sure that it's done and not, they don't wanna miss out like last spring. But what I'm doing is I'm giving those families 2 extra tickets for senior night, just to those families that have seniors, so that they can make sure and get grandma and grandpa there if they want them there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, like I say, once again, we plan to announce the district's level each Monday. We plan to do that.
Is there a
So-
particular time that the superintendent's plan to meet? Like, is that gonna be like a 2 PM announcement? Just curious. Because there are events that happen Monday night.
It won't go into effect till Tuesday.
It won't
Monday will
go,
be
so
on
it'll
the previous
carry over all the way
Tuesday.
until the following Tuesday? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
With that, we need to move on to Mr. Jakes, who has a very brief, oh, no, wait, I'm sorry, we've
He
got
can go
Harry.
first.
No, 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 Harry's part of G. Harry's part of G, it's just the indentation, I missed you.
okay, I'm supposed to give a quick report on the reviving Marshall meeting from July 29th, which seems about 4, 5, 6 years ago. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give you the highlights, and I'll send it to you. But I couldn't get a copy tonight because we moved to here. Basically, what happened is, I will say that it was upbeat and it was positive. The 3 things that I wrote down from the meeting: we should open school. Everybody was supportive of that. That was July 29th. And then we need to keep our students from falling behind academically. We had long discussions about that, and I think we've addressed that in some things. And safety, 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 safety. Some of the topics that we talked about, going to the ball games, what if somebody gets sick, all of these things were all brought up. I'll get down here, the child care program at YMCA, Kirk Alexander, it will be postponed until we see how it goes, and after Labor Day, he's gonna go in there. Then I just mentioned the Missouri State High School Activities Association things, what we just covered. We just covered here and updated. It was strongly suggested that we modify our back-to-school, we did, our back-to-school policy, and what we do in case of shutdown and everything else. It was a positive meeting, one of about, I think, 15 I've been to in the last few weeks. I'm done.
Okay, well, there we have it.
I attended on August 20th, the Region 5 Summer Rec Meeting. The Region 5 is our group of schools within our certain region for MSBA that they have us broke down into. We also have a representative from MSBA that sits in on all those calls. We actually had 2 that were present on our call. as well. MSBA has changed their focus to helping school boards ensure all students succeed. So that is their new focus and where they're actually going to be leading coming in. They have recognized that COVID has hit a lot of districts hard. There was a lot of talk about that and how they wanted to kind of move forward and help us with those things. There are quite a few dates that are going to be coming up. The 2020 annual conference will be all virtual. It'll be September 24th through 26th. They have expanded sessions and speakers. There are going to be speakers from around the country that are going to be able to go. Usually there's an in-person conference, but due to the fact it'll be virtual, they're bringing in a lot of other people because of remote connectivity. They can actually get some other experts from farther and wide. So the legislative forum will be February 16th at the Capitol in Jefferson City. That will also have the student showcase. The student showcase usually goes and coincides with the conference itself. So Igniting Great Ideas Summit is June 18th through 19th in Springfield, and they highly suggested that we actually send at least one person to that when that happens. Last year, if you remember, we hosted the region conference or the region meeting. April 28th will be our region meeting for Region 5, and we suggested that Holden actually hold that because they were on the about 7-year list down since we had just done it last year. Second would be Carrollton. They were about 5 or 6 years back as well. So they try to do it on a rotation. They didn't want to come back here because they were just here, but they said they had a great time here and enjoyed it. Also, we may look at Warrensburg as a third alternate because they've been a couple of years back as well. So
Are they planning in face-to-face, or are they talking virtual?
they said they are going to look and see what the climate is and make that call a little bit beforehand. So they are looking to have most of the events so far. The Capitol event in February is looking to be face-to-face as well, which I thought was very
Ambitious?
yes.
Optimistic?
We'll say that. Yeah, optimistic as well. So February 18th will be our next Region 5 meeting. That will be in Warrensburg at 6 p.m. I'll be attending that, or it may move out to March 11th. We have 2 dates just in case there's a problem with the first date going on as well. Additionally, I'm going to be sitting as the Region 5 member to the Leadership Development Committee, where we work on development, revision, and review of the board trainings, the curriculums, administrative practices, and et cetera, to be pushed out across the state. So,
Here, here, thanks for your
Congratulations.
service on that.
so trying to make sure we're a little bit more active on a state level and pushing that back out. So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
That next region, you said, was it April 20th?
28.
28th, okay.
Yes, April 28th will be our
I got
Region
that wrong.
5 meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Oh, and our topics for that will be, they wanted to talk about COVID. I tremendously discouraged that. They wanted to talk about looking back and moving forward and talking about what we learned. I actually voted, and we are going to be doing the MSET 6 that is going to be coming out. It talks a lot more about school board governance and how actually school boards should act and behave, and then addressing issues of equity. We're actually ahead of the equity curve. They were talking about the new training coming out, and I said, hey, we've already had one, and they were amazed. So, as well, so sitting in on the call. Our representative from MSBA, just to let you know, is Miss Kelly Hopkins, who is facilitating with our group.
Okay.
Good job.
Any other questions? All right. Then we're going to move on to new business. We have nothing under old business. So, new business, item A, approval of the following special education and federal programs contracts. I was going to say, Ms. Durham, plenty of time for me to read these out for you to walk all the way over here. Great Circle, no, you're fine. Fitzgibbon Hospital, that's physical therapy services, the local compliance plan, and therapist salary schedule.
Okay, so you have 2 different Great Circle contracts in front of you. One deals with the education of students, and one deals with spending their title allocated funds on an instructional coach to support learning, to support instruction. Those things, both of these contracts are very much identical to what we did last year. I didn't see any concern, so I fully support both of them. Are there any specific questions or anything that you would like me to explain in more detail? To be clear about the Title I funds, these are not title funds that are taken away from our Marshall Public School students. These are title funds that are allocated to neglected students, just so that's out there.
Any questions about the Great Circle contracts? We'll vote on all of these together.
Okay.
But we'll pause here. Any questions about the Great Circle contracts? They do look pretty familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been nice to have them last month, right? We'll take them whenever we can get them.
Okay, I appreciate we got them, we're good. As far as physical therapy contract, this is with Fitzgibbon Hospital, and we just contract for therapy services. We don't have enough students receiving physical therapy to employ a full-time therapist. So we do, we have, for the past several years, partnered with Fitzgibbon. I feel like our kids get really good services. Gina Pointer is the PT that works directly with our students. So I'm also in support of this. When Gina doesn't directly see our students for physical therapists, she has a PTA, so a physical therapy assistant, who will come and provide those services as well.
Will this be different with the distance learn, if those kiddos aren't at school, or does that change the look of their services any?
It can potentially, so in special ed, on each IEP, we have to do a new form. This may be more than you want to know, called Form G. And so if school is closed, what are we going to do? How are we going to serve you? So we're offering parents options. If they feel comfortable bringing their kiddo in for services, we're going to offer them that option first, because obviously, if you require special services and we can get you face-to-face, that's what we want to do. If they're not comfortable with face-to-face, we're going to work on sending exercises home and as many materials as we can, videos. So yes, she is going to continue to provide services, and she was more than willing to do that for us last year.
Good. Any other questions about the physical therapy services contract?
Do you feel like these services then will be sustained compared to years previous going forward with the services that we're giving? They're going to be equal or the same value that they have been previously?
As long as the parents will allow for them to be, yes.
So it's really up to the parent?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So if we offer you an hour of physical therapy a week, we're still gonna wanna see you for an hour of physical therapy a week. Now, if that doesn't work for your family, we understand, we'll work with you and modify, but our goal is still to meet those needs.
Great. I'm just making sure that we're maintaining year to year the same way. Great.
Any questions about the local compliance plan?
Okay, and I know it's a really long document, so we have 3 options as a local school district with our compliance plan. We can approve the DESI model, which is what I sent to you. We can approve the DESI model with changes that we've made as a district, or we can write our new plan. If we make any changes, or if we choose to write our own plan, that would have to go back to DESI and be approved. But these are following state and federal guidelines. I don't see any reason to rewrite it or not support the plan. We've supported it for years. I don't have any concerns. The changes to it are very minor, nothing major.
Pausing for questions. Okay. And then we've got the therapist salary schedule.
Okay. So this is something that has been talked about in Marshall Public Schools for several years. We've struggled to keep speech and language pathologists in the district. I started here in 2010, and our staff, I think at that time, was up to 15 SLPAs, SLPs, implementers, paras supporting that program. And we've gradually backed that off for different reasons. Right now, we're down at least 1 full-time speech and language pathologist. We just haven't been able to hire one. They're hard to find. They're very in demand. Both this year and last year, I sat in on interviews with SLPs, just to give you some background, and we did have a couple candidates, and both of us turned us down due to salary. DESI has actually even changed the way that they classify SLPs. SLP was typically a certified position, like they had a teaching certificate that they were issued from DESI, and they paid into teacher retirement, and now this is different. DESI has changed the way that they think about SLPs, so new SLPs are now considered classified employees, more on that therapist schedule. SLPs are able to bill Medicaid within the district, so any kiddos that are Medicaid eligible and their parents have given us consent, we are able to be reimbursed for those services. It doesn't pay for them in a whole, but it is reimbursement that we're receiving. We talked about that. Marshall Public Schools currently has 3 full-time SLPs on staff. So right now, like I said, we're down a person, and our team is more than willing to work hard and see those kids and make it happen with the team that we have, because they very much care about all of their students. Increasing teletherapy is always an option. But when we use teletherapy, we need to be mindful that it costs more per hour, and we have to pay another adult to be in the room with the student. So either we're paying a full-time teacher to be in there with them, or taking a pair out of a classroom where they're supporting students directly. So I kind of laid out for you teletherapy. Right now, we pay them $70 an hour, just to kind of give you food for thought there. So what the therapists have worked through, and this isn't the first time that we've had this discussion. I know it started back with Terry Porter. So their proposal, the schedule that you looked at, their master's degree is longer than a teaching master's degree. They have a lot of extra clinical hours, and I'm not downgrading that, but that's why they're starting on Channel E in the salary that you see instead of just master's. And then they're proposing, instead of, right now they receive a stipend for doing Medicaid paperwork and billing. They're proposing just a straight salary schedule for therapists. So.
That would
I don't know if
fold
I talked in
in.
circles around that. I'm
No,
sorry. Trying to give you all the.
Great circles.
Yeah, okay. Questions about the proposed salary schedule?
And I will throw out there, I know that this is a difficult year, and this was hard. This was something that we had talked about as a team that we weren't gonna talk about at all this year, that I was not gonna come and ask you this because we know it's a hard year. But at this moment, we're down a full-time person, and we're asking 3 people to do the job of at least 4. And so I think this would not only help us get through this year, I think it would give me something great to start advertising now. Look, we support our therapists, we wanna keep you, we wanna recruit new ones, we wanna go ahead and hire somebody for next year. Like, I wanna get out there and get ready. I don't want us to be in the same situation next year, because that's kind of the road we're going down. We hire someone, they stay a year or 2, they leave, they find a better paying job. So, I completely understand that this is a tough year to ask that, and that is not lost on me, and it is not lost on me that our teachers are working hard, that our parents are working hard, that all of our staff is working hard and doing more. So I completely understand all of those, but I just wanted to bring this to the table because we are struggling in this position.
So what excuse me for having just a brief sidebar. I was trying to, did you send a comparison of what we do now to what actually we're looking at with the new schedule, or?
So what they do now is they are paid on the regular teacher salary plus a $6,000 stipend.
Plus the stipend, okay.
What you're looking at on the new schedule is this plus an additional $10,000. So it's really a $4,000 addition to what they're currently getting. But this is doing away with stipends and saying that you're on a therapist schedule.
Where does this make us, when we're looking at competing with other districts? Have you done a comparison with this
I have.
salary schedule with the other districts?
It's pretty hit and miss. It would make us more competitive. I know other districts, like I know Sedalia, for example, we looked at their model when we're creating this, and they do have a therapist salary schedule, and this would still be less than that, but it's more competitive. And I can give you those comparisons if you want to see them. I just didn't bring them tonight.
I'd be interested in them on a later date and not at the time to vote. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Mayer, how do you feel about this? Like, where do you stand on this as the highest admin?
You know, in schools, we are used to talking about salaries and stipends, et cetera, in the education world. Therapists come from the medical world, and they are 2 different universes when we talk salaries. So are they worth more than teachers? Absolutely not. But do they come from a world where they pay differently? Yes, they do. So I accept that and I understand it.
And I think what spoke, not to interrupt you, but what spoke to me a lot is that DESE is now recognizing them that way too, and moving away from the model as classifying them with teachers and now classifying them as a classified staff member. So now that DESE has made that focus, I think that they're aware. If you look on any of the job sites that are looking for school-based applications, there are SLPs everywhere. There are districts seeking SLPs everywhere. I'm sorry, that was not clear.
I appreciate special services also. I have a hard time, I appreciate the medical field also, but I have a hard time looking at this and not saying, well, are our teachers paid more? We know our paras who are in the room or would have to be, if we went to, let's say, telehealth or whatever, those paras are not paid very much. And so, in fact, we know that the paras sit on that real low tier of the data that we received last week at this time. So I appreciate these therapy services, and I know that the teachers would probably say, oh my gosh, these kiddos need it because they love the kiddos, but I love our teachers, and I want our teachers to be paid. They're with them the majority of the time, and so how do we fall? I have a hard time negotiating that.
So Grace, what would we do, so right now, we're down one.
We're actually down 1.5.
And a half.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So,
So we have two,
Well, one's just part-time, I think.
1.5.
so how are we meeting needs with our current staffing? Are we using telehealth?
So we are continuing telehealth at the exact same locations we were last year, in addition to adding kindergarten. Last year, they only saw preschool students at the primary building, and now they're gonna see preschool and kindergarten.
And how many more students is that?
Yeah, good question.
That are specifically case managed by the SLP, I would say under 10. But when you talk speech and language, when you have an IEP, a lot of times that's a related service, so that number is much greater when you pull in all those kids that they're working with.
So when you're talking about $70 an hour, how many hours maybe are we looking at?
So last year, I calculated that our total for the 1920 school year, granted we stopped providing direct services, was $20,000. And that was only supervision at early childhood and at the high school. And so supervision means they had to see them once per quarter. The therapist did. The implementer or the SLPA provided direct services on a typical day-to-day basis.
These services are provided by our people. Have we looked into contracting out?
It's much, that's what I'm talking, the
That's-
$70
This
an
is
hour.
contracted out.
That would be the
That's
contract
the
rate.
telehealth, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And what are we talking for a caseload per, if you were fully staffed, what would their caseload numbers be?
The SLP's caseloads right now, I believe, are around 25 to 30. Our SPED teachers are right around 10. Some
And
SPED
the-
teachers are more, some are less, depending
And
on.
this comes out of our teacher fund?
It does. But I have a hard time.
I do too.
But we need it. I mean, these kids need it. Like, where do you draw the
And
line? What-
is this mandated, of course, they mandate them, but they don't pay for them.
How about the quality of services? And let me back that question up a little bit. I really want to know about, how do we know when a student has been receiving, where are our standards? Maybe this is a Gillespie question, but do we have state standards that are tied to speech and language?
So we have normative data based on age for the assessments that we give, so that's how we're qualifying kiddos. And when we reevaluate, we see what progress they've made, and they have goals that we are tracking quarterly.
Okay, so then let's focus in on that. How is that doing now in our current contracting situation compared to when we did have full?
So if you wanted to talk early childhood kids, are they making progress now that we're doing teletherapy? That's ultimately, yes, they're making progress, but I can't say at the same rate, at a better rate, because it's a whole different cohort of kids.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So the tracking is, yeah.
It's difficult because, you know, we're working with 3 and 4-year-olds, they move on, they have a different therapist.
Okay.
Okay, I have another question.
So it's not apples
So if
and
we're
oranges.
talking about being down 1.5 employees in this department, what classifies an appropriate caseload per speech, per the therapist? Is that just a professional known that they have just that number of caseload? Or is that, like, where does that, who decides how many kids or what can be on their caseload?
There's DESI guidance for that.
Okay. And so DESI's guidance says what? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Just, I would be curious if we've tried as a district to be, you know, on top of that curve, or if we're in the middle of the road.
We're on the high end.
Say what?
We're on the high end of what our SLP
Of the
caseload
numbers?
is. Mhm.
Okay.
So Grace, can you take us back? Because obviously it's on the salary schedule here. So the stipend was $6,000. That's what we were paying. So now that's gone. And what the proposal is basically increasing $10,000, putting them on a salary schedule, which is actually only a $4,000 increase. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And budgetarily, I was budgeting for another full-time SLP for this school year.
So we have the money because I was budgeting for one full-time person, which costs much more. My other caution about teletherapy is the implementer model goes away this year. So having a certified teacher in there working with students is no longer going to be an option. We would have to find an SLPA. We've advertised for those. They're also very hard to find.
Yeah. I hear what Ellen is saying. And I've also, like, I'm gonna throw this personal experience out for whatever it's worth. When I was teaching at the University of St. Francis, it was known for having a really good nursing program. And that nursing program was, I hope none of my colleagues are listening to me out in Indiana, was gutted in about a year because the job, the market was what it was. And they could make so much more being nurses than they could ever teaching in any professorial position. And so to see such a good program just be gutted was kind of a shame. Maybe they've built it back now by this point. But so I feel that pressure too.
I don't like to see them go on the salary schedule.
Well, they have a different salary schedule.
Yeah.
It won't be the teacher salary schedule.
And my understanding is that this salary schedule is supposed to be reflective of, in some ways, yes, the market, but also their training and background. And so you think that this schedule does reflect the fact that they have more training, more expertise, or something to that? Like, how could we phrase that? Is that what's being proposed?
I don't want to say more training or more expertise because I don't think that's fair
Right.
to teachers because we have teachers that have far advanced degrees.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it speaks to supply and demand and being able to go work in the medical field, and you're asking about quality of services. I have worked directly with all three of the full-time SLPs that we have now, and I don't think that we could get better people. They're amazing. I want them to stay. I hope that we have them stay. I can personally speak to, trying to count off, but I've watched 3 SLPs leave that I worked with directly when I was in my process coordinator role. They were also wonderful, and I was sorry to see them go. So,
So how can we talk about this in terms of the students too?
Well, one of my questions would be, is there another place that we're spending money that we're not necessarily touching kids? This is a kid service. Do we have money going somewhere that are not touching kids that isn't I don't know,
Not in a salary pool, no.
Right.
say what?
Not in a salary pool. This would be a salary situation.
I think we do. I mean, I think that maybe if we looked hard, we might find a group of people that are not directly touching kids that might, I mean, I don't know, I don't know. I don't know if I can, I don't know.
So with the personnel that we have now, we're looking to hire more. So let's say next year we hire another one in. We've taken into consideration the extra caseload that they're gonna be absorbing for us now. Next year, that caseload is gonna go down, but by salary schedule, their wages are going to go up, correct?
yes, but I would like to get away from using teletherapy if possible. I would like to back
So
off
if we
those
actually
hours.
had another teacher, then we'd be able to back off of that $70 an hour, $20,000 a year, and whatever else that's gonna add up to.
That would be my hope, because we won't have anyone at the high school to work with students, because right now we use an implementer, and that is only approved through this school year. DESE is, last I've heard, they may have changed their guidance, or they may
Mhm.
change their guidance this year, but they are not allowing us to have implementers next year.
Right.
So this person would help fill the need for our high school
Would bridge
students
that
that need
gap.
therapy, if we
Good.
can find someone.
Mhm.
How, would it negatively, yeah, I know it would. I was thinking about kicking it down the road to another meeting and discussing it some more and going ahead and approving the ones that you already have there that we can all agree with.
There's not a sense of urgency for me. I just wanted to bring it to the table and get it in front of it early in the budgetary year. And I want to start advertising for this position with a competitive salary schedule, so we aren't in the same boat next year. That's why I brought it to you now, sooner better than later.
Is there more information that we want, that we would want this bumped to the September meeting, or?
I wrote down that you guys wanted to see the actual DESE guidance for the numbers and some other district comparisons to see where we stand. I don't know if there was anything else.
I don't know if you could just, I mean, even in our own, in our in the NCMC conference, just like size schools, just, I mean, just to see.
Or even outside of conference, I'm sorry, just to say like area schools. And then also, I'd like for you to give us the medical
Yeah.
money that they would get. Because I think looking at the fact that I could leave here and go to a healthcare system and make 25,000 more, then you have to look at what you're getting. I mean, I know that, you know, behavior analysts are also getting big in a lot of larger school districts, but you're not gonna draw them into Marshall with the kind of money that we would pay. And some of them share halftime, whatever else too. So I know that those, you know, all those avenues of supports are looking to increase. We just need to stay ahead of it and be competitive, but we also need to be proactive and cost efficient as well.
I think, I agree. I think that's good info for us to have.
Yeah.
I need more info too.
Yeah.
Okay, so it
I
sounds.
apologize for not.
Oh, you're fine.
No, no,
Thank
no,
you.
this is good for us to start
This is-
looking at.
You're doing
This
your
is-
job,
How
Rich.
the
There's nothing wrong
discussion
with that.
works, yeah, this is very productive, thank you. So it sounds like we're going to be voting on Great Circle, Fitzgibbon Hospital, physical therapy services, and local compliance plan. We'll let therapist salary schedule just sit there, and hopefully you'll bring it back to us in September. Okay,
Table.
Therapy salary.
there we go. So Ed, is that a
I will
motion?
make a motion to, just what you said, yes.
I'll second.
Do-
Wait, I think Ed started
Oh, go ahead.
it,
Ed
to
can have it.
table the therapist salary schedule. I think Brian then was gonna second it.
Yes, I am.
There we go. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I move we accept Great Circle Fitzgibbon Hospital local compliance plan as provided to us by Mr.
I'll second that, and we'll keep going.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
You're up,
Thank you
sir.
very, very much.
Next one might be easier.
Okay, we've got the approval for the
Aye,
bid
yes,
for
sir.
IA.
Just a reminder, the heat exchanger and the IA building has been looked at multiple times. It's on its last straw, and we can't take it through this heating season safely. The bids that went out, George's Heating and Cooling, Bierman Heating and Cooling, and H&S Heating and Cooling, and you got those bids. I am, the low bid came in at George's Heating and Cooling at $19,297. Just under Bierman's at $21,700, and quite a bit under H&S Heating and Cooling at $32,753. I worked with Kevin at George's. I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay approving, or recommending that as my
A little bit.
bid for,
Well, why was that last one so high?
I don't know.
I was gonna say, it's per company and per project, so.
I looked at those and I went,
Also,
oh, boy.
I thought I'm not HVAC compliant, I guess, but there was an 18-ton and a 20-ton.
Right.
I'm assuming the 20-ton is a
Well,
better unit.
Yes, that was I asked that question, and the answer was that their unit was more efficient and would act as a 20-ton unit. So they
So even
took
though
our
it's smaller
square.
side by
yes.
number, they're saying
They
that-
took our square foot and capacity and said that unit would be the appropriate.
So their model would fit
Yes,
into
yes.
that, even, it's just different specs on the
correct.
model, because there were a lot of specs listed with the
That is
models I read
correct.
as
And
well.
the bid from George's was for a Lennox Landmark model number here, but standard efficiency, 20-ton capacity cooling, 360K BTU capacity, two-stage heating. It's a combination heat-cool rooftop unit. They would be, in the RFP, they were responsible for getting the old one off the roof. They're gonna have to get a crane in there to get
They're
that
going to
thing out.
remove the crane. I
What's
read
the
over.
warranty on that one?
I'd have to look here just a second. It also has a touchscreen, commercial touchscreen and program thermostat. I'm trying to see if it shows it on this.
It's probably not listed, but you're not gonna get more than a 3-year warranty on a commercial piece of equipment.
Better than putting it on the roof and walking away, it's your problem.
Most of them are comprehensive for 1 year, and then they'll go to a couple more years for your parts and limited
Refrigeration
labor.
circuit's usually gonna be 3 years
So-
and then 1 year and everything else.
Go ahead.
I did notice on the bid for Bierman's, though, they also said that they are recommending some hail guards because it's outside, so there's a couple things to deduct if you are not looking at those, which takes that bid down to $20,305.
Which still-
Correct. They're pretty close.
It
They're
is.
pretty competitive. They really
It's
are.
within $1,000 there.
And I was
I looked
curious,
up the
are the
Linux
Hell guards
unit.
something that are necessary? I have no idea.
I looked up the Linux unit, and the the condensing coils on the Linux unit are all at an angle, so they don't need hail guards.
Okay.
On the carrier units, they're all flat and on the outside of the unit, so when the hail comes in, it just beats them flat, and then you lose your unit.
so. That's the second time,
That's
that is
why
the second time he's explained
All right,
something
like
better than I
somebody with
could.
some answers. Oh my gosh.
Well, they're both great companies, so I wanted to make sure we gave
Marshall, thank you for
fair
I make a
information.
motion that we accept the little bit of George's Heating and Cooling for the 20-ton Lennox at 19,297.
I second. Oh, there you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, I'm going to recognize, we had a member of the public who wants to say something, and I'm going to recognize that person to speak regarding the approval for the bid for the turf of the football field. Roger, you had something you wanted to say. Just a brief comment, I know, so I thought I'd let you go ahead and say it.
I'll say two things before we get on the point. And that is, hearing everything that you're doing here tonight really makes me happy I'm retired. And in keeping with everybody else's presentation, I'll cut what I thought was pretty short in half.
There we go. All right.
Part of my background is a history teacher. I would like to give a little bit of history on the turfing of the football field. Last December, January, there was a committee appointed or suggested by the board, and they made a report, and that was presented on January's board meeting. And the topic of response that they had was go ahead and fix the track, put seed down the football field. I don't know if you've had any other exposure to your community and so on, dealing with the turfing of the track, but since that was an issue, they came back with a recommendation. I would hope that you wouldn't give any bad press or anything if you go ahead and act on this without having contact representatives.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
And could I ask just a clarification also? I know it says the turfing of the football field, but
Yeah.
it's actually sodding of the field,
Correct,
correct?
sodding. Sodding,
It's-
It will be
yeah.
going back with grass, yes.
Right.
sodding.
Mhm.
That answers your question about the sprinkler system.
Yes. Why you need sprinkler on turf? Yeah, no, this is for,
Okay. So Dr. Lorenz?
Ellen helped me, and we made contact with several different sod companies, and all of them were a little nervous about doing anything in August, to be honest with you. And so the way this is working out, September's a better month anyway. Mid-America Sports Construction submitted a bid for, it says turf, but it's actually sod, $74,123. We went, Phil Spalo, the adjuster for Gallagher Bassett, was out here. We all met, several of us met with him, Ellen, the coaches. They went back and we talked a little bit. Their initial reaction was, so the spin outs in the field impacted probably at least 30-40% of our field, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And I think he originally came out thinking that he was going to just be able to replace the spots, and none of us were okay with that. And they went back the next morning. He called me back, and he wanted to just do the playing field, and I said, I'm not going to be okay with that either. You're going to have grass, different type of grass. You're going to have the possibility of different elevation in the grass. He got back off the phone. He called back later, and they finally agreed to it. One of the reasons why he agreed to it, he said that this bid from Mid-America Sports is a very competitive bid. They tried working, I think, something out with the Mid-America Sport, but nonetheless, they came back to me and said that they were going to completely fund the sod replacement of the entire infield for $74,123. The reason why the irrigation was put on there, that wouldn't be covered, that wasn't damaged, so the sod company recommended that while we're in there that deep, because they're gonna bring dozers in and cut that top off and relay the whole thing, and they said, while you're in there that deep, this is the time to fix your irrigation system. We have a zone that's already out in our irrigation system, so we're trying to scrap between two zones to make it work. I totally agree with that. I think it's a $26,000 investment that while we're in there, it is worth the time to fix that for us. So that's a separate piece.
So we have, so the insurance came up with basically the 75,000 to cover
Yep,
the garage.
we pay the
turf.
$1,000 deductible and they're covering our field.
Okay.
And they wanted us to let, the sod people wanted us to stay off of it for a year anyway, so the way this is working out, we are gonna give it a chance to really settle in and set up.
And Dr. T, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm surprised that this is on as an action item. As the point person for the board, I wanted to have an opportunity to be able to share some of these things with the board so we could have a candid conversation about the things that Roger's talking about, and what our plan would be going forward, because from my standpoint, really the consensus of that committee, I sat on that committee, and the consensus of that committee is we really wanted new surfaces. We wanted the turf surfaces, we wanted the new track, but we all felt that at that time, the money just wasn't there to do that. At this point in the process, I believe 100% that we needed to go towards the insurance to have them pay 100% of this process and not do a patchwork job on a surface in a place where we spend a lot of time. Our kids have PE classes there, et cetera. And so one of the things that I would like to consider and talk about, I understand that September, October is the perfect time to sod a field. But we're talking about $100,000, the $26,000 that we would spend in the irrigation and the $74,000 that we're getting from insurance. How much money do we have saved in the budget for turf? For turf, not for grass, for turf. For the track, football, surface.
The track, 250.
The track was 250.
250.
250,000 is our number today? So we have 250,000, it's changed a couple times
It was
since I
our
started my
number last
prosecuting, so.
time.
Yeah,
It has.
it's been the same,
So-
it's been the same
So
for as long as I've mentioned it.
250,000 is what we've had.
Correct.
Plus the 74,000. It costs us anywhere from 40 to 50,000 a year to maintain a grass field. Do we have the maintenance and the custodian people, the correct mowers and I just want to make sure, if we're not in a rush, I want to make sure that we're best suited. I did have a board member message me and say, is this an appropriate time for us to try and work with the community and say, will you guys help us now that we have an issue, and we'll put forth whatever the amount, 300,000 of it. And I can speak from experience. When we worked on the gymnasium project, many in the community really wanted the school to give before they did. And so I feel pretty confident at this point that maybe we can work together and say, the district's giving 300,000 of it, will you help us with this? I don't know, I'm just putting this out here just to say, is this our, as you called it, opportunity? Is this the time that we look at that and say, we have half of the money for the football field, do we do it? And then our track's in horrible shape, we all know that. Then maybe we're able to get that done with the community as well, helping us, knowing that we're trying. This was not our choice, we didn't ask this gentleman to run across the field. I'm glad he did, kind of, but I'm glad he didn't. It sucks for our seniors, it's a horrible situation. We don't ever want anything torn up, but it's time that we not patch things and we do it right from the get-go. So does this put us ahead rather than behind? I don't know. I would have liked to have had an opportunity to really discuss that before now, before it was an action item, so that we can really research and know exactly in your budget what you spend to work on the fields right now. From my experience being out there, we don't spend near enough money on those fields to maintain them annually. And so is that something that we should think about?
So I too wondered if this was the time for us to move to turf, or look to a project, to upgrade our fields to something that's a little bit more sustainable, as well. We kind of have $100,000 gift, for lack of a better term, plus or minus as well in here. We do have a little bit of savings. How long is the bid? Usually they're valid for 30 days. How long did they give us on this bid? Just curious.
He told me he was clearing way for us if we want to do it in September, so I'd have to go back and find out how long
We'd
the
have to go
bid's.
back and look at it.
But I mean, it's only action. I mean, your action could be to choose to not take any action.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So, but maybe, Ellen,
just feel
since
like
it
we need
seems
to-
like I know that we kind of talked in the beginning.
For that,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. Maybe we look back, and if you want to, maybe if we look at tasking another committee to go back at, kind of like we did with Tilm for a couple of weeks in the
I like that idea.
winter, I guess that's when it was, before our other meeting.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe reach back out to maybe some of those people that were on that initial committee, see where we are, see where the community feels about some other things, and to see if maybe that's something worth pursuing at this avenue again.
Well, instead of it being a devastation, maybe we can use this as an opportunity
Right.
push ourselves forward. I don't know.
And interface with the community a bit more, so
Yeah.
that we're hearing about real
Yeah,
concerns.
I thought that, are we just going back with the same thing and we're gonna be stuck with possibly or potentially same or different problems?
Well,
For lack of a better term.
yeah, and the insurance company initially, when I got out there, he was talking about cutting pieces out. And I just flat out said, you don't put a Chevy door on a Ford car. So if you don't have the same weeds in your grass that we already have, then you can't put that grass down there. And that's how I feel about across the district. We're done patching things. Let's fix it. Let's do it right. And let's make it a face of Marshall. So,
Something to be proud of.
That's right.
yeah.
So off the soapbox, moving
Not
on,
the
can we
embarrassment
move
of
towards the
our
meeting?
Fields and everything.
So are we fine with tasking the group? Does everyone seem all right with that?
I
Tasking
think
them
so,
to do
yeah.
that?
Harry's got a comment, and then,
I do have one comment. Should we go ahead and fix the gate?
Absolutely.
Oh, I think you gotta stop people from coming. You
All
gotta
right.
secure this.
that's a good point.
I don't mind going this way. I go, in fact, I'm right behind you on this one.
So let's,
The
it
gate
sounds
is
like,
separate from the turf though already.
yeah, thank you.
Right.
Mhm.
So it sounds like what we want to do is table the bid for turf at the football field, and have that be something where, Ellen, are you comfortable with continuing to lead the
Sure.
board's
I'd be happy
person
to
on-
reach out and get people in there.
That's great. And hopefully, and then you'll just need to be working with Dr. Lorenz about when our deadlines are for these ongoing bids and.
Yeah, will you let me know on the turf, on the grass bid, just so we can kind of push? We might need to
You mean
email
to know
him.
how long it is good for?
Yeah, and I might need to email him. I think he and I've already had this discussion briefly the day that I called him, but I just want to make sure
I'll
he
have to
knows.
talk to Bruce Nieder from Gallagher Bassett to see if this has any implications if we choose. He asked me if we've made a decision yet because they wanted to move forward. So I'll find out from him if stopping the presses on that, if that has any impact on us.
Okay, please do,
Yes,
because we are gonna,
if our
we are gonna
insurance
pump the
payment
brakes.
would still be
I don't know why it
liquid,
wouldn't be
for
valid.
lack of a better term, is that?
So the conversations with Gallagher Bassett, I would love to be a part of those. So
Yes.
that I need to be a part of those. So if that's a phone call, an email, just include me on this if you don't mind.
Okay.
If we go ahead and fix the gate, and then decide we bring in bulldozers, is that gonna be a
They
problem?
they can fit
Okay.
it.
All right.
Yeah, that one's pretty good, thank goodness.
I make a motion that we table the turf conversation till a later date till we have more information.
I second.
All right, did everybody hear that? We have a motion and a second to table item C under new business. All those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, okay, thank you.
The gate was Arrow Gates, who we've used in the past. Craig's used them. They've looked around. The guy's pretty competitive. Even Gallagher Bassett said that was a pretty competitive bid. Pretty back a similar gate. It's not gonna be digital. It's not gonna be electronic like the one at the bus barn, which is kinda nice, but it will be better than the one we had, which was hard to open and close.
With that thing, you and I talked about that closure that we have out there. Would that fit on this gate?
The closure
Wasn't there an extra closure at the bus barn that's just sitting?
is an older one.
But would it work on this gate?
I didn't
So-
measure it just because they were buying us new, so I
I would
figured
just
if.
be, if we
if
have it, maybe we
insurance-
can use it.
If, it may be used somewhere, but I think since insurance is covering
He's
this.
using some of the stuff that
We
was
should take
already.
advantage
Cover
of a
you a
new one.
check. They would cut you a check so that money could be used elsewhere
Yeah.
if that gate works.
No, it's not the gate, it's just the
a piece
electronic
of the gate.
closure.
Oh, just a closure, okay.
Just
I was
so,
taking the
just
gate.
so, I was just thinking of our
Yeah.
people that are
Okay.
dragging no, this is just an electronic closure so that
Right.
people that are dragging that gate, pushing and pulling
Yeah.
that gate open
I
and
get what it
close.
is. I just
Yeah,
misheard.
that's what I was talking
Yeah.
about. Not the
Yeah,
actual
electricity.
gate itself, but
No, we-
the electronic
Closure.
closure.
Yeah.
That's what, we don't have electricity there without plowing something in.
Where do we bring that from concession stand, or would that have to come all the way across the parking lot?
Somewhere over there.
No electricity
We
is
can
what
get
they're
it
talking
from
about.
there. Yeah, if we had an electronic gate where we're pulling
Where
electricity.
yeah, you're gonna have to wire
Cost of
all
that and
that.
power. You know what I'm saying?
So it just sounds like, okay, so,
So it sounds like,
so what is,
the bid for the gate.
And that price on that bid was $6,952.
you talked over, you, sorry.
I make a motion, we accept the bid for the gate football.
There we go.
Second his motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Are we also tabling then this approval for the irrigation system contingent
Yes,
on
I
final?
think that was, wasn't that part of
Yes,
it?
Make a
ma'am.
motion
I
to table then.
Go ahead.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we are moving down to approving the bid for E-rate Category 1 fiber connectivity project.
And I showed you the list of all the Category 2 and Category 1 items. The total Category 2 items, which are covered at 80% and include things like the Spainhour replacing the failed main switch, also a switch rack in conjunction with the fiber project out at Spainhauer, and then doing a couple of things at the high school with the main rack and replacing some switches and modules. The amount that we applied for, $132,384.17. We were approved at 80%. So the cost picked up for our E-rate Category 2 items was $105,000. The district expense is $26,476. Several of those items are Spainhauer, and I have that built into my budget for the Spainhauer project, so that 26 won't actually be, it'll probably be about half of that, what we'll actually be taking out of the tech budget. So I'm taking it out of the budget that I created for the Spainhauer school building. Then down in the Category 1 items, I already explained to you earlier about the, it's basically just formalizing the approval of that fiber ring around the high school and around the Spainhauer campus. This connectivity project was covered at 90%. E-rate approved the 90%. We just last week, got final approval for the 10% from DESI, who's covering the other 10%. That'll come in our regular monthly payment. I still have a lot of work to do with paperwork to get that figured out, to get that last 10%. There's two other items in there. One was the internet service provider migrating to ISP. That's a Category 1 item, but it's only covered at 80%. Same way with the WAN connectivity, moving to MMU dark fiber. That's only an 80%. That's the reason why down in that lower category you saw the $4,952. So the total savings with the combination of Category 2 and Category 1 items this year to the district was $517,761. So it was a good year. And I recommend that we approve those.
I'll make that motion.
So moved. Second? Yes.
All those in favor?
I want to make sure that those,
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just want to make sure those numbers actually made it out because, I mean, when you're looking at it saying cost-effective taxpayer money,
Yeah.
we're talking about $550,000 worth of equipment that we're coming in at right at $20-some thousand or
That's a good
$25,000
job.
if you're looking at not even using the other budget. So.
Okay, now we'll move to the approval of the memorandum of understanding with Launch.
Launch is one of the approved vendors that DESI uses for their MOCAP program, and they do require a MOU for each district to be able to utilize their services. It's a very standard MOU. It does reoccur without us having to re-sign this MOU on a yearly basis, I believe, starting August 1st, until one of us were to terminate it on our side or from, it is sponsored by Springfield Public Schools, and we currently will have 3 students enrolled in the Launch program. They were nice enough to allow us to go ahead and enroll the students in hoping, anticipation that we would sign this MOU with them.
These are the ones we're gonna have to
Launch
pay
is
for.
actually my preferred vendor, actually, because the curriculum is written by Missouri teachers. It has followed Missouri learning standards, and many of the other vendors are national vendors, so they're not as particular to Missouri students. So
Missouri
Launch is my,
State, this is the one comes out of Missouri State, and we have to pay for these, right?
I'm sorry?
And we'll have to pay for these students that have,
You pay your daily seat price to them by district, correct?
Yes, every vendor charges a different amount. And I want to say for, I'm sorry, I've been looking at a lot of them. I want to say Launch is around $3,000 to $4,000 a year per student for their credits that they receive. And it is different for elementary compared to middle and high. They just started offering their elementary program this year. It'll be their first year.
so good things for it.
It's just a standard MOU.
I was gonna say, I read through it, it's a pretty standard document, so I make a motion that we accept the MOU in regard with Launch.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
Great.
make a motion that we move towards closed session.
Real quick, I was just going to show you a couple minutes of it, a couple
Oh.
minutes, 30 seconds of it. It's kind of long.
30 seconds and starting.
Sorry.
You got 30
She's got
seconds.
your clock.
Harry, the
So,
picture is
I'll let you
clocking
see it
up
from
there.
both sides. This is just a pour out there the other day of the third or so of the parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
He spins here in a minute, you'll see the other side of the building.
You got 15 seconds.
Coming.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a long bull float.
Tight.
Long goal float. Power Street, that was pretty impressive watching that Power Street, I'm not gonna lie. My grandson and I had fun watching this video the whole
I
time.
was gonna say, done that by hand so many times, that was,
There you go, there's a shot looking back at the.
Who's our second for moving into closed session?
Second.
We need a roll call, so I'm gonna start with Brian.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. We'll have a break, we'll come right back.
Yeah, so far it's been better than I thought it would be.
Let me help disconnect the microphones.